Now broadcasting from the Next Gen Conservative Studio in sunny South Florida, bringing you the latest in politics, current events, and pop culture. This is the Whitfield Report with Sam Whitfield.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Whitfield Report. I am your host, Sam Whitfield, broadcasting live here from South Florida. Happy November, everyone. Hope everyone had a good show. We were going to do a show on Monday, but as it turns out, we actually did record one, or tried to. Max joined me on the Monday show, and we recorded it. It actually went about like 5 hours long. Longest podcast we've done. But then for whatever reason, because we were using Riverside, it didn't export properly or whatever. So that's why there was no Monday show. And then yesterday was Halloween. So, at any rate, sorry there was no show on Monday, but here we are. Max is currently, indisposed. He's probably doing something, but he'll join us in a bit. I've got plenty to talk on my own. First and foremost, couple quick announcements before we dive into the show tonight, and we have a lot to cover. But I do want to thank the audience of this program, and also the people who have purchased my book, Shadows of Deception, a thriller. I know I promote this every episode since it came out, but there is a milestone that I've hit with this book. As of this past weekend, I did some calculations, and the long story short, we have sold 50 copies of Shadows of Deception on Amazon. About 40 paperback copies, of which I am holding right here for those of you watching. And then about 10 of those are on the Kindle edition. Now, that's not 50 in 1 month. We're not that good. But 50 copies since the July 4th release date. And considering that there are, authors with bigger name publishers that don't even hit 12 copies in some cases, for a year, I consider this a success that we've sold over 50 copies total. So, again, thanks to everyone who has purchased the book on Amazon. It really is a milestone. I am working on book 2, hopefully to be released later this month still. But yeah, just super proud that I was able to release this, and again, just super grateful for this audience and for everyone who has gone out to buy the book and support me as an independent author. And also to support the show, because we don't we don't really e-beg here. I do have some links for those who would like to donate, but really, I've been pushing this. You know, you buy a product, you're gonna get a product, and I'm very proud of this and can't wait to share the second book with you. So, that's a quick little announcement. Again, if you haven't gone over to pick up a copy yet, link is in the description for my Amazon authors page. You can go and pick this up in either paperback or Kindle. Please leave a 5-star rating and review if you do decide to, purchase the book, or just leave a review, in general, if you feel it warrants 5 stars. And we really appreciate you. All right. So, I'm going to kind of repeat some stuff that I mentioned on the Monday show. It'll be a repeat from me. But since Monday's show wasn't actually published, this will be, kind of a new monologue for some of you. But ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to address something that has been brought to my attention, and I've received some criticism for, uh, ridiculous criticism at that. But, since the whole, really, in regards to the whole, war with Ukraine, and also in regards to this new war with Israel, over the past 2 months, I've made it no secret, and same for Max, that we are pretty much kind of anti-war on this program now. And, I've been pretty anti-war for this past year or so. For the past 2 years. But ladies and gentlemen, some of my some of the neocons that have followed me on Twitter, and just some of my detractors in general, have pointed out that I used to be more pro-military and more, in their words, like pro-intervention, pro-war hawk. And I'm not gonna lie, they are kind of right. So one thing that I don't think a lot of people take into consideration is, I've been podcasting since I was roughly 13, 14 years old. And when I started podcasting, I was a young conservative, and I kind of, I came up in the Bush era of politics. And I grew up in the 9/11 era. In fact, when I was 7 years old, in first grade, that was I was in first grade in 2001. And, although I was pretty young at the time, I do remember seeing the Twin Towers fall. And that was really the event, ladies and gentlemen, that, sparked my interest in geopolitics and just kind of politics in general, was seeing, the Twin Towers fall on 9/11. And at the time, And, in the following years, I, like many Americans, and like many Americans even of my age, on both sides, the immediate response of 9/11 was, uh, we needed to find out who perpetrated the attacks on the World Trade Center and who killed 3,000 Americans, and we were going to rain down hellfire on them because it was the just thing to do, right? So I was very pro war in the sense that, um, you know, it seemed like appropriate revenge for 9/11. And, and it also seemed justified going into Iraq and Afghanistan because we were told that, oh my God, there are weapons of mass destruction. And also, Saddam Hussein is killing his own people, and it's a Holocaust over there, and so we needed to, you know, rid the world of an evil madman like Saddam Hussein and liberate Iraq and liberate Afghanistan and bring democracy to the Middle East. And so there were lots of Americans on both sides who felt that the war was just for several years. And really, the people who were opposing the war, the liberals back then, I won't say all of them, but a lot of them, like Sean Penn, most notably, they were anti-war, but they weren't actually anti-war because they were anti-war. They were anti-war because they hated George W. Bush, and so there was like a big trend among the liberals to pretend to be anti-war and bash George W. Bush in the process. How do I know this? Because when Barack Obama got into the Oval Office and basically started droning terrorists left and right, all of the critics of Bush that called him a warmonger and a baby killer on the left suddenly shut up when Obama did it. All of the people who were criticizing Bush for Abu Ghraib on the left, maybe rightly so, were dead silent when Obama was committing the same war crimes. So I still don't cut the left any slack because like a lot of liberals have been like, the neocon is finally turning anti-war, and fuck you guys. You were only anti-war when it was convenient for your for your side, basically. And also, like I said, when I had a lot of the more neocon policies, like I was a teenager, and it was pretty normal for conservatives to be more neocon because we generally thought, ladies and gentlemen, that we were actually helping out and doing a good thing. And so let me bring Max in here because he has joined us. But good evening, sir.
I just want to give a big shout out to Barack Fu. You see this here? Okay. So what happened was I went on like a brawler beat 'em up kick, right? And I was nostalgic for old brawler games. I got the new Ninja Turtles game, the Shredder's Revenge DLC. My boy loves that shit. He already he told me to leave. He didn't want to even play with me. He wanted he's like done. He's like, I got whatever it is, the fucking bunny samurai and the ninja girl, which is what he wanted. It was only like $8. Interesting enough, I already thought that was the game of the year last year, right? I've said that a million times. It added a thing. It's like they know me personally. It added a roguelike mode that's basically endless with all the characters, and you can get all kinds of upgrades. I got a little bit addicted to it, but I can't play it because it's on the Xbox Live account, so you can only play it at once. I can sit there and play it with him upstairs, but I tried to come down because he told me to get out because he got his new fucking. He wanted those extra characters and he didn't know how to get them. And see, in our day, there would have been like a secret, right?
Yeah, cheat codes.
And that's what he kind of assumes because he's not thinking about money. You know, he's 7. Like we talk about money. I try to talk about money sometimes. He knows what money is.
Right.
He knows he never has enough of it. Fair for a kid, right?
Yeah. Wait, to Max's son, wait until you, I know you're too young to listen, but wait until you're an adult. Then you'll really feel like you don't have enough money.
Yeah, exactly. He thinks it's way worse though. Like they react way worse when they're kids because you're just used to it. You're just ground down by a fucking life. You know, especially you're ground down by the Biden administration. So anyway, and then we got my wife got the Harry Potter game on the Steam Deck. So I had her playing that because that's pretty cool. She like grew up on that shit. She was marking out. She's popping for like she got a Hufflepuff and that made her very happy. And I gave her this like pep talk speech first before she even played the game. Cause I was like, you should just go whatever the fucking hat tells you. Cause I don't know much about Harry Potter, but I know the hat picks whatever crew you're in.
Right.
And it's basically like the jocks and the nerds and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And like every Harry Potter fan I've ever talked to, I even said this to her. Every Harry Potter fan I've ever talked to says they're Hufflepuff. Every single one.
I just went with Gryffindor because I was like, that's the one that the normies, you know.
Well,
like,
I feel like I guess a guy probably would, or Slytherin, but girls are every single girl is Hufflepuff, and most guys.
You know what's
I don't know, like I've never read the books or watched the movies because I was into like more hard. I was telling my wife that I was into more hardcore fantasy when they came out, so they seemed like baby shit. I was reading Conan, original Arthur C. Doyle Conan, and I'd already read The Lord of the Rings like 5 times, like the whole, not just the Hobbit, there and back again, long before there was fucking films. That was my shit.
Yeah.
And then I got into the D&D shit where it gets kind of hardcore, and then it was Conan. Conan's as hardcore as it gets.
Oh yeah.
So
Conan's some really good stuff.
Harry Potter, I get that it's good, right? But it's meant for a younger demographic than I was at. And so it's the same with Pokemon too. A lot of gamers my age love Pokemon way the fuck more than I do. That was my brother's thing. Or Power Rangers. But you know what's cool is maybe Power Rangers wasn't my thing, but it was both my younger brother's thing and it was my wife's thing. And it's the boys' thing. And it's kind of organic. Because his cousin had a Power Rangers the movie DVD, and he would watch that, and then he watched the original. He wanted to watch the originals. He chose it. He watched some other stuff too, but he wasn't ever as interested as like that first like 3 or 4 seasons with the Green Ranger, the guy that just died recently, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But it's cool because my boy, I mean, we're not gonna tell him that he's 7. He's a celebrity you like that you watching old fucking videos died. Why would you ever even broach the subject?
Right.
He likes the Power Rangers because they fight.
No, well, and if he's a nerd like
and truth and all that,
and if he's a nerd like we are. Like, I don't know how you are, but like I'm the type where like when I was like a teenager, or no, not even a teenager, but more like 11, 12, and I like started to get onto the internet. Like that was when I started like, you know, Googling about films and actually like reading at like
Well,
how
yeah,
films.
see, right now all his stuff is kind of controlled,
Right.
including his screen time is like automatically limited. I have like parental controls on everything because I'm not a boomer and I understand the internet and I understand myself as a youngin, and I see a lot of it in him sometimes with his troublemaking ability, because it's troublemaking, like the penchant for a harmless prank that maybe should be a harmless prank but gets you in trouble anyway. That I see that in him, but he's nicer about it. I see I'm a bitter old asshole because I came from like a shithole abusive family, right? But I vowed I'm not gonna make my kid live from a shithole abusive family.
Which is actually pretty big of you, because it would be really
There's only
easy
one way
for
to break
you.
the cycle, right?
Right, but
My boy's never done anything to raise my ire to such a degree. He's a good boy. My wife is sitting right next to me. Is he a good boy? Yes. Does he get in trouble with mischief?
I heard that.
Yeah.
He gets in a little bit of mischief, but he's a good boy.
Yeah, he's polite. He has manners.
Listen, if a boy doesn't get into a bit of mischief every once in a while, that's also a little kind of.
Yeah, but he's like me, and that's what worries me. Because I'm a bit. But hey, he at least has avoided years of like violent trauma, right? I can say that much. Whatever happens from there, and look, it's not like he doesn't listen. I'm stern, dude. All it takes is, see, the reason I say he's never raised my that degree, because dad voiced him. He cries like I hit him.
Yeah, no, that's how my mom. That's how my mom was.
Worst fucking thing in the world to him. His mom doesn't have that effect. So like a little bit, but there's nothing like if I dad voice him.
Yeah, no.
But that's also true of grown women.
I was only spanked once or twice, and
it wasn't spankings with me. It was like flat out just like abuse.
Well,
like
shit,
horrific abuse.
That's
so that's why I vowed not to do, because I know how it feels, and then the whole world seems against you, right? Especially in my case. Like I've said this all before. It's not anything new. My mom worked in the emergency services industry, of a pretty notable position, I would add. And all of the people that worked with her were like fucked up and abused their kids. They like had a weird fucking cult of it. And they were friends with all the cops and the firefighters and the people at the hospital and so such and such, right? And so if you go cry for help, they're all in on it. So I kind of had a fuck the world mentality from early on. And they were all liberals too. So that kind of painted me. That's why the first political thing I ever engaged with, I think I told you this, was what's his face running in 1992.
Bob Dole.
No, that's 96.
No, Ross Perot.
Ross Perot, yeah. I can't believe I blanked on that because he like influenced me more than anybody. He had bought with his own money for his independent, he wasn't Democrat nor Republican. He was just a businessman, and he felt he had a message, right? That was relatable. And that's why at one point he was leading, and his message was basically all the shit everybody says now. And on the right, the Trump people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because he ended up starting the Reform Party, and Trump was in the Reform Party. So obviously there's overlap there, right? And I saw him when I was young in 1992 because he bought 8 p.m., a half-hour time slot on like every channel because he was a presidential candidate and he was a billionaire. And even to my, unformed young brain, he made perfect sense. He's a businessman, and he was talking about we can't keep spending this money, and why should we go after interests that aren't our own and such, and then we need to at least reform. If we don't reform the immigration, he was also against the amnesty thing that Reagan did. Because we've talked before about Reagan. I can't give Reagan like an unblemished record. He did amnesty.
Yeah, no, I can't. I can't either.
And some other scandals that were mostly not his fault. Like Iran Contra wasn't mostly him. He was a doddering old man by that point.
Yeah, no, that was good old Ollie North.
Yeah.
No,
And he did for the right reasons. I'm not gonna lie. But like the big one was, like I say, economically, if you were in the middle or the upper class, because we were talking about that, we got a show deleted.
Well, yeah,
incompetence-based censorship. Because they said we could talk for hours on their platform, and that's what we did on Monday. And y'all missed it.
Yeah, I was recapping to the audience because I had some people DM me like, why was there no Monday show?
Oh, there was you all missed like the best show we've ever done for like 5 hours, and I'm not even exaggerating.
No,
I'm not like, you know how old Max will do a bit where he's like sarcastic over the top and he doesn't really mean what he's saying and he's kind of an asshole about it. That's not this. We really did the bangerest ass Whitfield report, at least since my tenure, minus maybe the the really good interviews that he's done.
We did the longest show in history.
Yeah.
No, I was actually kind of recapping some of that for
you pay those people for that service too.
No,
right?
I don't pay for Riverside. I pay.
Thank God, because they lost the greatest. That is a bit of lost media.
They are.
We went off, ladies and gentlemen, on everybody there ever was, and probably you too.
Well, I am kind of recapping some of that because the neocon. Because, like I was saying, like all of like the DeSantis doomers.
And here I am talking about everything but this time. Mm-hmm.
No, yeah.
That's the greatest. That's why I can say with full sincerity, it was one of the best shows we've ever done, and it was raw as fuck, and y'all never gonna see it.
Well, I might. Riverside, to their credit, is trying to like recover the files for me, and so maybe we'll.
I don't know if they're ready for it.
Yeah, I don't.
Maybe it should just stay gone. I'm not even kidding. It was fucking amazing.
Maybe it'll get like released, like like 10. You know how like rock bands release like stuff from the ball.
That's the vault right there. That's the vault when we're both dead. We've made it to the Whitfield report's taking over, new rush, internet-based rush, right? And I'm your fucking idiot sidekick, and we did this for 30 years. We retired, fade off into the sunset, and that's all they have to remember us by.
Well, no, I was recapping, basically because
us being assholes. Especially him, man.
The DeSantis doomers and the neocons. I was basically kind of recapping what we covered on Monday. They found my old like shows from when I was a teenager, from when I was like, I guess, more pro like interventionist in their mind, and so I was laying out how like there were lots of conservatives who are now anti-war, who thought that like going into Iraq and Afghanistan was a noble. It wasn't because we wanted to just kill like random Iraqis, even though that's what happened. It was because we actually thought that there was like a legit good thing going on there. And then like, like everything else that has kind of been revealed to us, we were lied to. And by the way, like I was saying before you came on, like all those anti-war like leftists, a lot of them weren't actually anti-war because they were more anti-Bush, masquerading under the flag of anti-war. But
and they're like, they have to see themselves as the poor picked on minority, and it's tough with Israel because like Jews are certainly a global minority, and for the people that are like there's people that are saying free Palestine, the people being treated awful there, and there's certainly a case to be made for both fucking sides argument. I've said this a million fucking times at this point, right? But I just happen to fucking honestly take the side of like, why can't we try not killing each other? Both of your holy books is based on the same thing, and one of the few things that they concrete for sure believe, all of them came directly from God, is the 10 commandments. And amongst those 10 commandments is thou shalt not kill. I'm just saying maybe but you can't have that third way because they're like, it's unrealistic and they're mad and they deserve better. And it's just like, yeah, I agree. And like a perfect example, I spurred out about Massachusetts history to my wife today because I actually take it very seriously and it's interesting. And it's, I think in some ways like relevant in terms of like the human story. Like you hear leftist shit on Thanksgiving and it's actually a beautiful story. And yes, it involves bloodshed and that's fucking tragic because these two cultures came to this land and like, bro, I was telling her because the relationship is the place we went camping. It was like their happy hunting grounds for a certain part of the year. And I can fucking relate. It's like, if I could just spend the summer down there by the water, hanging out, hunting and cooking food up but they roamed, right? And so when the white people got there, they didn't meet them right away. Now they don't speak the same language. They have completely different cultures and worldviews and levels of development. Of course, there was fucking some static and some miscommunications, right?
Yeah.
Early on between the Pilgrims and the Massasoit tribe specifically. I know people from the Massasoit tribe. I'm a nerd and there's a lot of history in this area, you know?
Yeah, well, the other thing too is we tend to look at history through the perspective of like the modern day lens,
In the
right?
grand
Like,
scale, it wasn't very long ago, you know, and these ghosts ripple through our entire history because one of the things that was very important to the Massachusetts Bay Colony, the Pilgrims, the Mayflower. So many people say they descend from the Mayflower. I actually think that that's probably a lower percentage than people want to admit. It's kind of like I have some Indian in me, and then you get tested and you actually don't. I feel like the Mayflower is the kind of same thing, and a lot of people say that. However, that's how fundamental it is to our culture because it's a status symbol. That I've been here the longest, and you're coming here, you're the newbie, you're the greenhorn, right? And that's how they've kind of treated all the waves of immigrants that have come in this country and faced that kind of static, including my own, you know. But Massachusetts, in particular, were a religious type, right? And they didn't believe in the Church of England's version of things because it was kind of soft by their opinion. Not mine, right? But they were Puritan. It's in the name. They had a certain way of living that they disagree with the Church of England with its divorce and its sin as they saw it. And also the institution of slavery specifically. And so those people that came here on the Mayflower, yes, they did bring with them slaves. And they got off the boat as basically like servants that work for them with rights from the very foundation of the Massachusetts Bay Colony. I don't know if people knew that. It was one of the first places in the world to abolish slavery from its inception. And it's written into the original Massachusetts Constitution, which is hilarious if you think about it, because then we had a civil war over the U.S. Constitution not really addressing the issue. Massachusetts had addressed it. Some of the southern states had addressed it. The problem was they addressed it completely differently and led to some bloodshed, but not here in terms of that. Like, it's just they were a bunch of religious fanatics, and that was one of their things because they believe. And it's actually hard to disagree with this from any perspective if you think about it. But like the slaves shouldn't be slaves because they're people and they can read the Bible and you can evangelize to them and they can hear the word of the Lord.
Yeah.
Right? So how can they not be saved by the Lord? How can you tell them that they can read and understand this message, but you're not allowed because your culture is different, when specifically the Bible tells you to spread it everywhere, the gospel? You know what I'm saying? And they're very, very religious people, mind you. So what do they think when they meet the Indians? We're going to spread the gospel. Didn't necessarily go well. And you can look at like different historical accounts, but it basically comes down to a lack of being able to communicate. And also, we have the gods of our land already, white guy. We understand you have your magic boomsticks. That's what they actually called them too in English when they started to learn, but they only started to learn after they had some skirmishes. There was some killed on both sides. And then the winter, because by the way, this is Massachusetts, like the middle of fucking Massachusetts on Cape Cod almost. Winter can be a very, very, very cruel bitch out here every once in a while. And they were a bunch of English people used to living in their own little farmstead. They already had houses. They had to build up out of nowhere. Obviously, they were prepared for it, but still, they were from England. See, the weather in England, as any like British, viewer can maybe confirm or deny if you want to in the comments, is pretty static. Like they have a lot of rain. It's kind of, it gets a little bit hot and muggy in the summer, but not too bad. And it's like rough sometimes in the winter, but not New England. See, England is one thing. New England is rough because we got like shit like the nor'easters that come up the coast and they hit us just right with the cold front and you're just blizzarded out. It doesn't happen all the time. It's not like up north in Canada and shit where they live with it constantly. But the years where it fucking snows you in out here, I mean, me and my wife at 1 year were snowed in to our apartment because it was a basement apartment and nobody came to shovel us out from the outside. Nobody could do it because it was such a fucking crazy blizzard. So we were just snowed in for like, I think a week and a half before I was able to shovel my way out the window. And it was crazy. So these English people that have kind of like almost like an Amish lifestyle when they're in England, right? They disagree with the king because they don't think that was the other thing. They were kind of extremists because they felt like the king can't speak for God. And so they did come to this country to found a new country essentially from the get-go. Absolutely. But who was it? It was like 6 mud huts surrounded by sticks. You know what I'm saying? They weren't exactly fucking Fort Knox or even worth thinking about. So they thought they could just live the way they want. And they were kind of right for the most part until good old King George comes asking for his fucking tax money. Because, of course, the man's always going to hold you down, right? Fuck that shit. The fucking tax man with his hand out. What are you doing for me, King George? Oh, making tea cost more? What else? Oh, I put British guards in your city to fucking rape your fucking wife. Yeah, you have to quarter them. See, motherfuckers want to talk about First, Second Amendment. How many people really understand the Third Amendment? The part about quartering troops. Why is that a thing? We don't think about it at all nowadays, right? But why is that a thing? Because when they got forced by the king to quarter troops, the abuse taking place was insane, where they would just rape your wife. And there's nothing you can do about it. They'll just shoot you if you have a problem with it. They have basically the authority of the crown to do whatever they want to you. And just like cops will do some shit with a power trip, well, they have no oversight.
Yeah.
You're a traitor to the crown in a time of fucking uncertainty and disloyalty. A time where people are saying crazy things like the king isn't divine and maybe governance shouldn't be written by a religion specifically, but rather let a man practice it how he sees fit. The birth of a nation came from that extremism. And you and I may not agree with like the Pilgrims and the Puritans in their kind of extremism, right? The way they lived, even for that time, was very extreme, but it served them well coming here because supplies were almost wiped out. And that's when something amazing happened. A miracle, you might say. Those savages that they'd been kind of skirmishing with out in the woods, they kind of fired. I mean, they had like 2 muskets to the whole bunch of them, as far as I understand. They weren't exactly heavily armed. They were civilians. These were not soldiers. They came to settle and just be alone with Jesus, essentially, right? And they actually, do you know what the original name for the Massachusetts Bay Colony was before the miracle I'm about to talk about was?
Plymouth Rock, I know is the name now,
but for the whole colony, the first name for the what is now known as the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. What do you think the first name was?
Puritania or something like that.
New Israel.
Whoa, I never knew that.
Because it was the promised land of milk and honey. And boy, were they wrong in a lot of ways. But I can't, this is the thing. See, people are like, Max, you really don't agree with a lot of the politics in Massachusetts. Why don't you leave? And I've certainly considered it, and I kind of hate this place. The law was against me. There was a little court case. It was like the Commonwealth of Massachusetts versus Max Sand. But there's a lot of history here, too. And it's not this land's fault. This land, there's something special here. You might say magic, or blessing.
Yeah.
Dude, that campground that I went to was part of the Happy Hunting Ground. That's I don't remember their word for it, but the Happy Hunting Ground of the Massasoit and sometimes the Wampanoag tribe. These guys used to come to our school because they lived in our town. Like the elders used to come and like do their dance and show us and talk about their culture and shit. There was like I guess what you would call a reservation, but they just lived in a certain part of town. Like they weren't like, I don't know. We just had them guys because where I grew up was right in the middle of like King Philip's War, and we took their side. Actually, that's an interesting story in and of itself. Another time of strife and bloodshed, and who is right and who is wrong between the white man and King Philip. King Philip, who did speak English, he grew up speaking English. This had been a while, right? But there was a miracle first, and that miracle was the first Thanksgiving. The true actual story of it was pretty simple. They had fought and skirmished. The town was depleted on supplies. They were getting sick. It gets real fucking cold here, gentlemen. Real cold. And you ain't prepared, and you ain't got enough supplies, and you ain't held out for the winter. But actually, first they landed at a place called Dighton Rock, which is actually right across from where I grew up, to make beer so they can make the journey to the place they were looking for, New Israel.
I love that I actually titled the show the 1st of November, and we're already like, it's November 1st. We're already digging into Thanksgiving history.
But that's what happened.
I love it.
So they've been skirmishing with these fucking savages, and they can't speak to each other. And you're the fucking crazy white men in these weird fucking clothes on horses that go on the sea made of wood with dragon fucking wings and fire sticks and big boomsticks. And we don't know what the fuck this is because we're just like, they just hung out here and they migrated because they knew the weather here was bad. And so they took pity on the white man. And they came bearing gifts. And those gifts were turkeys and then white men had never seen them before because they're native to this area. when I go out running, I talk about going out running. I run into the same motherfucking turkeys. Them shits is territorial. I try to get far away from them. They run in packs of like 22. I'm like,
Yeah.
I have some crazy pictures of turkeys way too fucking close, squaring up to me and shit. And their claws, if they kick you, and they will kick you, they will kick you. They don't bite. They'll headbutt you and they'll kick you. And when they'll kick you, they're razor sharp fucking claws. You might laugh because it's a turkey and ha 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 turkey. Thanksgiving.
No, I've heard turkeys are vicious. I've heard that turkeys are vicious.
Mm-hmm. I come way too close all the time. Not today. I was out running today. I didn't see any turkeys. But recently, I send my wife pictures right? I send you pictures of the gang. I call it the gang of turkeys. Me and the gang of turkeys have been in a turf war for like a year and a half. But they came bearing gifts.
Also,
the gifts were turkeys, and they had a feast, and they started to talk. Imagine that. That, you know, rightfully, the Indians felt aggrieved because what probably happened is they came upon each other both hunting and got scared.
Yeah.
They'd never seen anything like each other. And that's fucking scary. And you can't talk it out. You can't make amends. So you're out on edge, and every time you run into each other, it's hostile. And the Indians broke that. They came with some fucking turkeys, and they started talking and learning little words in each other's language. And they rode, and it wasn't just Thanksgiving Day. They rode out the New England winter together, the tribe and the settlers. That's what Thanksgiving celebrates.
I'm dead serious. I've never, and I went to a good school, but like I've never heard not any of this, but like a lot of this stuff I'd never heard of.
But you know, it wasn't peace forever, because then there was King Philip's War, which is a really interesting conflict from that area that I'm from, right? Because like I said, King Philip grew up after that. They'd learned each other's language. He read the Bible. He understood the white man's religion. He was a part of, like, some Indians, and they're the ones that tell me to call them Indians, by the way. Like, if you have a problem with me using the term Indians, then you need to go talk to the Massasoit tribe. Okay? Because the old men in the Massasoit tribe said they wear that as a white man badge of honor because it means people of God.
So they don't like
Not
this.
The ones I know. Look, maybe some guy online might be offended, but I'm doing what those people tell me. And I respect the chief very much. Look, I'm from that kind of small town, and that was a thing. The King Philip's War was basically like, the settlers had been there a long time. Now there's more colonies, and there's this one town called Attleboro that's named after a town in England. And King Philip, Tecumseh, right, was his Indian name. He had a hunting party out, and they encountered the people from the guard of that city, essentially, who were out hunting as well, just like they had, 40 years or so ago. And people got killed. 2 of Tecumseh's braves were killed. And so he approached the Attleboro colony with his war band and their war paint on and their war chants, and they came to the front door of the city, and they said to the guard in perfect English, because again, he was a part of society. He didn't even live with the Indians that kept to themselves. He had actually been raised and gone to Christian school, right? Because his dad had converted. So he understood the white man. He was a part of the white man's world. But what he didn't like is you killed his, but he's also part of this other world, right? And that world has been tied to this land a very long time. And he approached and he said, "You have shed the blood this is what the old men would kind of tell me. Maybe don't do it justice, but like, I bet you they wouldn't have a problem with their history being heard, right? Is like, he said, you spilled our blood, 2 of ours. There is a law of this land, and that's the law we believe in. That's our God, is this land, and it demands in return for our blood, right? You need to avenge the death of my 2 young braves. So essentially, he was calling for a sacrifice, which is a very different culture, right? And maybe sounds barbaric, but like, I mean, any parent that lost a there was questions as to whether one of them might have been his actual child, because they kind of didn't keep records that way.
Right.
Not during the war.
No, the whole world back then, like this is what I try and tell people too, because like we look at history through the lenses of our like modern day interpretation, and so like when a lot of people will criticize the Pilgrims for killing like Native Americans, it's through the lens of
it's almost like first contact with aliens to a degree for both of them.
Right. No. Well, yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. But also, what I'm saying is like human beings in general back then were just more savage as a whole. We look at things through a civilized.
You have the least chance of dying by violence of any of your ancestors in human history. Did you know that?
I actually did know that. But that's what I'm saying. Like, people like to talk about how the Pilgrims were killing Indians, and how the white man enslaved Africans, and those poor Africans in Africa. Africans were enslaving each other in Africa, and and selling them to the white man. That's what a lot of
Massachusetts Bay outlawed slavery early on, right? But we still had our problems because of shit like Tecumseh, because he said he argued to them under your rules, because the Massachusetts Constitution predated the U.S. Constitution, and it is sort of a basis. So is the Masonic Constitution.
Yeah.
That all 3 of them share the same DNA because they were written by the same guy, but the Massachusetts one just happened to include the Puritans, that just basic part of why they came was to free their slaves, because through their religious kind of rejection of their parents' generation, as happens quite often, they've decided that these people that they actually grew up with as almost a family member cannot possibly be my possession, right? Not according to what God says, right?
Right.
Because like God has rules for owning slaves, yes, in the Bible. But Jesus said like the first thing you should do is free them. That's the kindest thing you could do.
Yeah. That's also something that should be noted. Like the
But
Old
Testament said, hey, if you're a slave, be a good slave, be the best slave you can be, and don't sin. So there are some conflicting messages about slavery in the Bible.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like the idea of just don't do slavery is like a fairly in the long scheme of things is a in the grand scheme of things, like that's a new concept for humanity. Is just don't do it.
They grew up in this like little bubble of a time where, because they were like well-to-do, kind of, because they had built up their own community there, but they were persecuted because of their religion to some degree by the government.
Yeah.
They grew up thinking that slaves should have a right by God, because that's a logic that was being taught in their church. I mean, most anti-abolitionism I mean, most anti-slavery sentiment in this country came from like the most religious fanatics on the right that existed. Like Christians made this point right from the very get-go.
Yeah.
If it weren't for Christians, and like Massachusetts has that interesting thing is because there's only two waves of the black people, you know, that live here for the most part. Its ancestry came from at large, like over, you know, a large data size. And it's some from the South during and the lead up to the Civil War on the so-called Underground Railroad. And they just decided to stay here instead of go to Canada because they realized that we already didn't have slavery and we wouldn't like send them back. I mean, we, as in the Massachusetts Bay Colony, they were just like, nah. Nah. We don't believe in that. God says there are people. And that's why there was an argument to the you know, Constitutional Convention, two sides, about what to do about population count in regards to slavery. Massachusetts said, if you want them to count as people, you need to free them. And the South said, fuck you, but we have a lot of them, so we should have more representation in Congress. And the North said, fuck you, because they're not people. You know what I mean? Why are you going to count them as people if they're not people? And that's where the famous 3/5 compromise, which in hindsight, probably not the best idea in the world, came from. They counted them for the census purpose, but they still slaves and don't have rights. But for the census, they're 3/5 of a people.
Well, also,
I'm sure nobody will ever fucking disagree with that and maybe kill millions of each other.
Well, I have some historical perspective on that too. So, and I actually heard about this years ago from Glenn Beck, because he used to talk about this. But after the American Revolution, a lot of the founding fathers were actually against slavery. But considering that it was such a hot button issue,
Ben Franklin, James Madison, yeah, Sam Adams to some degree.
Yeah,
Sam Adams owned slaves, but he freed them after and went abolitionist.
Well, right. But
Patrick Henry.
Yeah. Basically, though,
Thomas Paine. I can. Yeah, there was a lot of abolitionist. Ben Franklin was the most vocal, though.
Yeah, there were a lot. But see, the founders also
were. Ben Franklin, if you think about that, sold out because he's the one that brokered the 3/5 compromise.
Yeah, but do you know why he? Do you know why he?
Because there wouldn't be a union otherwise.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say. The issue of slavery was so, that's
why it's called a compromise, right?
Like basically they knew a civil war would come, and in the immediate aftermath of the American Revolution, like we needed to rebuild. Like we were still like brand new, and
there was all kinds of little things like the Whiskey Rebellion, Rebellion up here. That's another one. And then King Philip's War, which is like that's the one I was saying. He went to them and said, blood, you owe us blood for the blood you spilled.
Yeah.
King Philip says to the white man, and the colony of Attleboro said, fuck you. We're not going to give up our people. Go away.
I do think Indian reservations are barbaric and horrific. That I can't really stand.
I don't know. They don't live on reservations up here. There's not enough land for that. I mean, they have little ones, but they're basically just where they sell like cigarettes.
Maybe not.
But they own the casinos.
Well, yeah.
They make mad money. A lot of them.
Well, up in northern Michigan, like in Petoskey, where my dad's family is from, they have a bunch of
The
casinos up there too.
old men that come talk to me in school, I'm talking about the Massasoit elders, are descendants of that same tribe. So like we don't have a reservation. They still live here. The campground that I went to on one side is like a campground. It's part of their like territory. They roamed in the summertime though. And there's an actual private side. It's like really nice and fancy and clean. And they just live there in the summer. But they also own the casinos. And you know what? It's like the most beautiful spot to chill out in the summer, especially in their fancy ass RVs and shit.
Yeah. Are you eating toast on stream?
Oh no, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. Did you I mean, for God's sake, eating is allowed on eating on podcasts is a thing that Apex like started here because he purposely used to chew. Not only that, but Elon Musk and Joe Rogan ate anchovy pizza
There you go.
yesterday.
We could
on a
do like
podcast.
grifters and be like, oh yeah, well you gotta pay for me to turn it off, otherwise I eat in front of you.
That's what Apex used to do. He used to,
Oh my god.
he used to just eat
Toilet flush.
he used to eat like he used to eat chips and whatnot on like stream, and people would complain because he would never, like the first few years he never came on camera, so you would just hear him like noisily like eating chips, and so we would always get like spurgs that would just be like this fucking guy is chewing. I can't stand. I'm fucking out. This guy's chewing his chew.
It's like no, we ordered from like the local place, you know, because they're good. And
Yeah.
it's buffalo chicken pizza.
Ooh.
Like made like, and it's the kind of buffalo chicken where they like it's actually this place they take chicken tenders and they like dip them in hot sauce and then they cut them up and put it on the pizza and then cook the pizza. It's pretty it's like my favorite way of doing it from when I used to work at the pizza joint. You put that extra little care in there, you know?
Yeah. Trader Joe's makes, I don't know if you have Trader Joe's in Massachusetts because not every
I think so,
does.
but not nearby.
But yeah. So we have a Trader Joe's near us, and one of my favorite things from there is like a barbecue pork pizza that you just throw in the oven, and man, is it good. They put little pieces of like barbecued pork on the pizza with and instead of tomato sauce, it's a barbecue sauce with onions, and man, is it good. So,
well, that's the trick with this. It was buffalo chicken, and then I add garlic.
ooh, yeah.
I'm sure my wife will love that combination later.
Well, hey,
I don't, I very rarely eat spicy food just generally. So I was like, you know what? That place makes the bomb buffalo chicken pizza.
Well, heck, I've tortured you. I'll admit, I've tortured you and the rest of Twitter with like my Friday night pizza posts for about 2 months now. So
I just have to do an extra day running because I ate a pizza. It's fine.
You know. Well, also, so Shmuley, prayers to Shmuley because he has the flu and strep. He says he's not worried out. He's not worried out about it though because he has women to take care of him.
Oh my god!
Literal Shmuley, and people think I'm bad. But Shmuley's like, no, I have women to take care of me. It's fine.
I feel that to some degree, I like created a Frankenstein, you know, Like, I'm a little bit responsible for this.
I mean, I feel like I kind of influenced him too a little bit.
Yeah, but I've been
Maybe.
doing it since he came of age, basically. I've known him since he was 18. And, like, we're the
Yeah.
last two remaining of, like, the original friend group, except Dalek.
Yeah.
Which always shout out to Dalek.
Dalek pops up in chat. Yeah. Dalek is like one of my most like loyal retweeters on X. I appreciate it. Speaking of, X almost crashed today because like the hackers are, I guess,
at AnCap Dalek, by the way, if anybody wants to follow him. He's a great dude, actually.
Yeah.
Like, legitimately, I've been talking to Dalek for almost a decade, and Shmooly. Like, we're the last three in our little friend group from the original friend group of many more people.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah, I mean, see, a lot of the people that I would have been friends with 10 years ago went never Trump, and yeah, they.
And the three of us couldn't be more different if you think about it.
Yeah, that is.
I'm an old, like, rock and roll hippie, right? Basically.
Yeah.
And he's like a go-getter, up-and-comer business type with a fucking drive and ambition. And Dalek is one of the hardest working people I know, for sure. He listens to us when he's working. That's why he's a big fan. That's why he retweets everything, because he's actually like, he came out for my Halloween show. I don't know if you listened to any of it, but we had a fucking blast. I haven't done that in so many years.
I tried to, but I did catch a little bit of it because I had to go to the airport with my uncle to pick up my parents. They just got back from Europe, actually. And
oh yeah.
And actually I found out that my stepdad,
they were in Europe through all this like unrest and protests. How was that?
Well, let me put it this way.
Didn't affect them?
No, because they were in Italy, and the Italian prime minister is based. Yeah, no, didn't really affect them. My stepdad.
Italy would be a cool place to go.
This is one of the things I was going to mention. My stepdad, I found out, actually listened to our show over there, and
in Redfield.
Yes.
Even if he hates us, even if he fucking absolutely despises everything we say, based in Redfield. Just giving us a chance. Shout out.
He was like, I'm glad, because he was kind of in a position I was in where he like he wasn't like a staunch neocon, but I mean, as I've mentioned, like the Biden disastrous plot kind of made our entire, it made him and I kind of rethink everything with, the Middle East,
like
conflict.
When it comes to approach those white men, blood is always sacred to somebody, right?
Yeah.
And that, the decision to say no, you might have saved a lot of lives, because King Philip's War was crazy. He had very little mercy on the white man and them in reverse, and they fought until basically once he got killed, his people gave up and they kind of went back to where they were living, and they get more like land or whatever.
Yeah.
But some cities, here's an interesting fact. Some cities, okay, at the time, because this was far before America was a country, right? Some cities in the Massachusetts Bay Colony sided with King Philip. And in fact, the town I grew up in did. And so did like, it was like the Taunton area. And so These two towns at one point were technically at war with each other. Can you imagine that? That's how crazy it was. Because when King Philip came to them and talked, because he tried to talk with, because he was from, like, he wasn't trying to be an uncivilized savage or whatever. And I'm not just saying that because of the noble savage myth. He literally was raised like around white people and was like raised to be a Christian at a private school.
Yeah.
His people got mistreated because he also engaged in like the hunting and stuff with his family, right? So he had both sides of it. He was probably not like the first person to go to war unnecessarily, let's say that. It was a measured decision because blood in, blood out, and that's basically what all I use that example because that's what all this war boils down to. And that decision to say no, well, you could have sacrificed the two people that killed them, and it would have prevented hundreds or thousands of deaths at a time when there wasn't all that many people here on both sides. You know?
Yeah.
And now those peoples, a lot of them, they're like great grandkids live together from people on both sides. But at one point they were killing each other, you know, and then they come to the school and they teach about it, and they settled it in the little old farm town that I grew up in at the what's called the Council Oak. It's just this big ass oak tree, but it's kind of a historical thing because they took the peace pipe for the and that's actually where a good chunk of Indian stereotypes come from too. Is specifically these tribes has practices that are similar to a lot of tropes, and that's why they're tropes, because they were the English people met.
Well, the thing about stereotypes is
the thing about stereotypes with the English is they're just the most they point to the most obvious thing in the world and then giggle about it like school children for 400 years, you know?
Well, yes, and also they all come from somewhere, right? Like
yeah.
That's the thing. But no, my stepdad, his whole thing is we've got plenty of problems here in the country. Why in this country? Why do we need to keep intervening? And by the way, Max, he is.
I'm a radical. Like the government should spend less guy in most respects, right? I think we've gotten so far away from the foundational principles in that regard. People worry about, and rightly so, about the like First and Second Amendment rights, but they're also stripping away your financial freedom bit by bit all the time, particularly under Joe Biden. And that is a freedom that sucks to have infringed upon by taxes that you essentially didn't vote for and that they can't even put on you straight to your face. Because remember, Joe Biden said he wasn't going to raise taxes on everybody. He was going to raise taxes on the poor and only the wealthy, right? Hey, are you wealthy?
No, but I'm white, so.
Do you pay more in taxes, you think, than you did 3 years ago?
Yeah.
Just by the tax of inflation alone?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I definitely.
Because that's a tax on money they spent writing a check written on your ass and your labor.
Yeah.
To give to Ukraine and Israel. And at the same time, somehow Gaza. We're gonna just fund both sides of it openly. Congress just signed that to fund both sides of a war. And then I hear one side and the other calling each other war crimes. Here's the thing. War crimes only exist in court after the fucking crime's been committed. You got to understand. On a battlefield, if they're just saying, fuck it, total war, well, you might put them on trial one day and you can scream about war crimes, but they clearly ain't caring. And that might be true of either side. I don't know, or both.
Yeah.
My hope, my prayer, my deep, honest, because I'm at the end of the day, I'm an optimist, but my honest, hope for in all of this is a ceasefire. Just stop killing each other. That's like, and maybe that sounds like a simpleton answer. And then people are going to give me a 20-hour lecture about the geopolitics. Look, I know about a lot of that. if not all of it. Certainly a lot of it. But the fact of the matter is, it's easier, when people aren't killing each other, especially people who all three religions involved. One of the things they agree on is that those were specifically the words of God. And you shouldn't kill each other, right? So shouldn't that be, before you kill each other, shouldn't you consider not kill each other? I guess I'm just a dreamer,
Yeah, well,
I try not to choose violence, you know what I mean? I get being backed in a corner. I'm not a pacifist. But like, we're not backed in that corner, bro.
Well, that's the whole thing.
And we're paying for it on both sides.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing, right?
What are we getting out of it?
I'm not even.
Ask yourself that, audience. What are you getting out of it? Even if we don't get involved in it militarily at all, beyond what that is, we just gave, I believe it was $100 million to Gaza refugee aid, which often ends up being used or misused for, acts against Israel or hijacked by Hamas, because they need supplies more than anybody, and they're the ones with like the guns and shit. Right? You're gonna take their supplies, even if you hate them. You're not going to take their supplies or the supplies that they capture with a bunch of guns. Unless you have equal gunnery, you're probably just going to let Hamas have it. I don't blame anybody for that.
I don't.
Although you don't know, because they might agree with him.
Honestly, Max, I don't. At this point, I don't.
Why do we have to sort this out? They and God can sort this the fuck out, as far as I'm concerned. Both sides, And then you want to look at who committed the war crimes after, but whatever. Doesn't seem to deter them. They probably, both sides know some of the shit they did is like that. It's war. That's why I advocate against it, because it's horrific.
I honestly,
especially for
I don't see
wars.
I don't see like what other option there is other than like a ceasefire at this point that won't.
Well, it's either because like objectively, I mean, one side their slogan is literally like "Death to the Jew" in Arabic.
Yeah.
and the other side, pretty much the same thing, only just not like official. It's a handshake and a wink. You can shoot that little Palestinian kid because he ran across that red line or whatever. For sure, that happens. Like anyone pretending that doesn't happen, abuses of power in positions like that, yeah, it's happened
for sure.
But that doesn't reflect on every single Jew in the whole world, and that's the craziest thing to me. This is one of the things we're talking about. Whatever you want to say, I know there's like some like edgelords on the right that like think they're Nazis and hate Jews or whatever. Fine. I don't like a lot of those people's arguments for it. I've been to the belly of the beast. There's a famous one you can find of me somewhere if you fucking Google food deep enough, where I argued with an actual fascist on his show where he used to host, and he's still it's the last time I talked to him. He was a friend of mine. I ain't heard from him in a couple of years, but we used to record his show at a cigar bar, and I flat out like blew his fascist philosophy out the water so bad he ended his show forever.
Yeah, well, you also made Christopher Cantwell cry.
That's true, yeah. But not the famous cry. He cried well before the famous Charlottesville cry, I'll tell you that. All the time. There's a 12-hour tape of him like on meth crying about me and his mom. And they used it in his trial to make him sound like a lunatic. Somebody cut it down from like 12 hours. Because it was literally, he recorded his stream of consciousness on meth for like 12 hours, and he called it an art piece. This is true. You can look this up. Look up Christopher.
No, I believe you. I believe
on Kiwi Farms.
Listen, at this point,
and if
Max,
you look, now that I said that, if you see any familiar faces, just ignore the man with the. Just ignore Thor, okay? You don't know who Thor is. You never met him before. You never seen him anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Certainly don't.
photoshopped me on Thor telling Cantwell that he's a cuck and to stop thinking with his dick because he's the incredible cuck, as drawn by Iron Man. Is one of the greatest comics ever. Frankly, I could bring it if you give me some time. If you have something to talk about, you can give me like 5 minutes. I'll find that shit. I'll bring it up for the audience. You'll have a laugh.
Yeah, I mean, I would, Max. I was just gonna ask you if you watched any of Rogan's interview with Elon Musk.
No.
I really do recommend it because,
I mean, that's I have watched one a while ago. Do you mean is there a recent one?
Yeah, he had Rogan on. I mean, Rogan had Musk on yesterday.
Oh, that sounds like a snoozer. I'm gonna pass on that.
Yeah, oh yeah, it was totally boring. Wink, wink. They I mean, they basically talked at like how
I'm both kidding and not kidding though, if you know what I mean. Like I'm not gonna listen to that. You can give me the bullet points though. What do you say? Anything good?
basically
Did he pull an Alex Jones moment? Rip his shirt off? Bitch!
He basically
They put monkeys in your brain.
Well, he basically said
Toilet
that like
flush. Rogan just starts doing toilet flushes.
I love how we made that like a bit on our show now too. Is like,
but without the sound effect. I actually made the conscious decision about that one. That if you put the sound effect, it would make the joke funnier to the audience, but not to me, because it's funnier this way because they hear the toilet flush noise in their head. And it's always going to be more worse in this is like an old radio trick. It's always going to be worse and more creative in your head than the actual sound effect would be. That's why Morning Zoo fucking sucks, by the way. Part 2.
Saying toilet flush is actually worse than
I was taught that not by some like radio professional, but like my high school AV guy teacher.
Yeah.
You know, this isn't like some super secret thing. Is like if you leave the audience up to their own imagination. Hitchcock was the master of this, very famously, you know. You see the stabbing, but you don't see the stabbing.
That's why like Silence of the Lambs is probably my favorite horror film, because you don't see all the gruesome murders, but it like
Psycho's a much more toned down than that. The stabbing scene that's so famous is a shadow.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then some blood flowing down the drain. That's what the genius of it is, right? Because your imagination of what that looks like is always going to be more fucked up than any of the special. They can make some special effects that'll make you sick in some cases, for sure. There's some movies with some. I don't really like gore flicks, to be honest with you. That's like a thing I'm not a big fan of, but I've seen some. You know, some are all right. Like I don't mean like real ones, you know. I don't like to look at that. My friends used to look at that. I might look like the kind of guy that looked at a lot of that, but actually, I've mentioned my mom was in emergency services, so I had seen enough people die in front of me already by that point to go be looking at gore. You know what I mean? Car accident guy. You know what I mean? People getting paralyzed because I was hanging out in the hospital. And that's for whatever reason, no babysitter. Both my parents worked, so I hung out in the fucking lounge for like an hour after school so I could get a ride home. And they just wheeled a guy in and just got fucking like plowed by a semi truck. Just crushed as a human being. But they got a little breather on him. But like I didn't. Not to be too over the top, but I didn't really need to see it on the internet after that.
Yeah, well, I would think that would kind of numb you to anything on the internet. Like,
No, I have the opposite. I don't like it. It makes me sick because, like, I have empathy for human beings. That's why I'm anti-war too. You know,
yeah,
because I don't know. Whatever your thoughts are on God, I like at least the idea, one way or the other. Basically, what those pilgrims had, that we're all equal in the eyes of the one holy creator, whichever version of it you believe in. But apparently that's like not a belief shared by most of the population of Earth. So what are you gonna do?
yeah. Well, and then people, the killing in the name of religion is also like that is one thing that does kind of like that's always baffled me. I guess.
Yeah, but it's inevitable.
Yeah.
It's like two peas in a pod, you know, especially I guess if you could ever get like in a kind of utopian bullshitty kind of way, thinking in the meta, a society that at least all across humanity agreed on what the religion was, you might avoid that. Well, I'm not sure you wouldn't be able to do that. Like, I don't think you'd be able to do that voluntarily.
No. Well,
I think
hell,
it'd
I
have to be
mean,
like, I mean, that's the story of the Emperor in 40K, really, at least as like early incarnations when he came to power in the Unification Wars in Warhammer 40K. His whole
yeah.
point was to unify them under no religion, but that was because of the Chaos Gods. So he
Well,
wanted to make everybody atheists because he figured if they believed they'd feed essentially these demon gods. So he made them all atheists to save everybody. But ignoring that science fiction-y part of it, I think that the Emperor is a good metaphor for the only way you solve the problem of people fighting over religion. And it doesn't really solve it. It just kills the people that disagree. And that's
yeah.
basically what they're all saying they want to do to each other.
Well, I
I
mean,
don't know what you do about it because both sides are pretty fucking adamant, you know?
I've always said that, like,
They'll be
it's
like, oh, they bombed what was it? Refugee camp. Oh, we got a Hamas guy. Yeah, you just bombed a refugee camp full of women and children. I'm supposed to think that that's okay because you're the side that I kind of think is in the right. Not really, man. I don't think killing people is like okay. If there was one Hamas guy there, but there was like however many women, children, and innocent bystanders, uh, is that gonna make it better?
no, no.
They might be out for revenge. Both sides are, and that's what's scary, you know?
Yeah, and they both might use human shields, but that doesn't mean that the cost of the human
Well, there's
shield.
collateral damage too. Like that actually is a thing. So you get the both sides of the coin, right? A lot of these
Yeah.
rockets the both sides are firing aren't like the most accurate things in the world either.
No. Well, and that's my
Israel's are more accurate generally, but that's what makes you think when they bomb like do if they did. See, that's the thing. They did lie a lot about the whole hospital thing. So you can't even really bother. That's why I like gradually pay attention. I scroll through. You know what I do? I scroll through when I'm on the shitter because, they might be called X now, but it'll still always be shitter to me after I just celebrated my 15-year anniversary with X. Yeah, X has been around for 15 years. No, it was Twitter. And you know what my response to that post was, Sam? Wow, what a waste of time. Thanks for reminding me I should use Twitter less and look at this bullshit because you want to know my hot take. Stop killing each other, and they'll be like, "Oh, but this is more complicated than that." All right, cool. But you heard my opinion. I think you should maybe fucking grab a turkey and fucking cuddle up by the fire and learn each other's language or something. That seems more wholesome to me.
Although, I know,
But they know each other's language and they know they hate each other for fucking reasons. And
well, but you also, I know you don't like pit bulls either.
No, I'm not a fan. Not a fan.
So,
I don't even know if I want to like. I went trick or treating. Obviously, it was Halloween. So first, the boy went with his grandmother. She basically took him around to all her old lady friends and got him lots of big candy bars. Because they all look at our little grandchildren of all the people that she hangs out with at her old people building, right?
right.
They'll all give him like big candy bars and shit. So he went around and did that. And I'm pretty sure he went to the police station, was giving out like candy with like safety instructions and shit like that. But he likes cops. He actually, that was when they asked him at school what he wanted to be for a living. He said he wanted to be, I think I've said this before, a police officer.
And that must have given you like, oh no, oh
I
no.
mean, not really. That's a noble fucking pursuit for a
Yeah, I
good-hearted
mean,
6-year-old.
yeah, I mean it is. I'm just I'm giving you a hard time because, I know your stance on cops and
I'll say
yeah.
this, like the few times I've interacted with cops with my son, it's been not because of me being a bad guy. And I've asked them, not just him, but also like 2 of his cousins, hey, officer, we have children in the house. So, when you come in, could you please just, not try to scare the kids? Because like, I mean, that's a long story. I don't know. We're supposed to talk about Israel. I beat up a guy basically because he stole my wife's debit card because he was a junky low life friend of her cousin that we were staying with, and he was talking to me that same morning. He was talking to me, and I was trying to convince him to go get himself in a rehab program and straighten his life out. And right after that conversation, when he said he wanted to go to the bathroom, he walked in to my bedroom, closed door, opened it, went in, found my wife's purse next to my sleeping son, and stole her debit card so that he could go to like the liquor store, like a packy that we call them out here. If you didn't know, I'm not sure they call them that elsewhere. And he bought like a pack or 2 of cigarettes and some cheap fucking booze, and then tried to take a bunch of money out on a debit card. And by that point, I rejected him because she knew it was missing immediately. But I didn't think it was him immediately. I was like, nah, you must have dropped it or whatever, until there was a charge because she hadn't left the house.
Right.
He did. And then he came back, and this is the audacity of this motherfucker. I'm not even kidding you. We had a court case about this. He was found guilty. This is a matter of fucking public record. But fucking, he came back with these spoils of his little theft, his escapade, right? And what did he do? He tried to order pizza with my wife's credit card right in front of us. So I picked him up by the shirt, and I snatched the credit card, and then I picked him up off the ground by the shirt because I'm a big guy and he's not. And it's one of the advantages you have an intimidation factor was when you pick somebody up, most people don't get picked up very often. It's not something they're used to. They don't usually react at all, basically.
I mean,
especially if you squeeze really hard. They're too busy like, my ribs. And then you just throw. No, this is the strategy of a big man. That's what you do when you're a bouncer. If you actually have to get physical with somebody or a security guard and you don't have any like weapons, like some places they won't allow you, especially if you're working around celebrities. Some places you aren't allowed to have any weapons. That's why they hire big, scary looking, hairy dudes. Because you pick them up. And it's most times at that point they get the message, right? It was like 3 or 4 times I ever had to forcibly remove somebody from a venue, right? Personally. And the 2 of them were just, hey, how about you don't do that anymore? How about you come with me? We're going outside. And they're like, yeah, all right, gentlemen. And then the 4 other people that had just swarmed them next to me that are all usually as big as me. A lot of times they're Samoan.
Oh yeah, and those guys look like,
Monsters.
Yeah, monsters.
Monsters. You know what I mean? Like not in a disrespectful way. They're fucking like Samoans get a reputation for being fat, but most of them guys were bodybuilding nuts.
No. I've known some Samoans a lot. I went to college with this.
They're
one
big. Don't get me wrong. They're built wide. You know what's funny is that what's that Disney cartoon with The Rock in it? It's cartoony, but it almost gets the proportion of a lot of Samoan dudes right with the giant upper body, dude.
The
Moana
one. Yeah, I never saw that, but I know. Yeah,
it's actually fairly good, and I would say on the woke scale, it doesn't bother me because it's just paying tribute to that culture, and it's kind of unique to it, and it's his culture, literally, or at least half of it.
No, I went to.
It's an important culture in his life and his wrestling too. You know what I mean?
Like, I went to college.
Be anybody without his Samoan heritage and his family lineage, if you think about it.
I went to college.
And his God-given talent.
Yeah, no, I went to college with a Samoan, and he said the one thing that, the one thing always kind of that he always kind of felt bad was because, I mean, he's super down to earth, but like everyone was kind of scared of him just because of how big he was.
Yeah,
and he's a giant teddy bear, basically, but like everyone was just
they're wonderful, like to work with. They're like
they are
professional motherfuckers out there. The Samoan bodyguards, dude. Like they knew their shit. They all had like earpieces on and shit. I'm feeling like a fucking scrub, man.
Yeah,
but I'm as big as most of them, so they at least treat you like a peer, you know.
Yeah,
ain't no clickism about it or anything. It's just the thing I noticed is like they have a genetic predisposition to be big the way I'm big and throw people around, and a lot of them seem to make a lot of money off of it. And that's pretty based, actually.
That is one thing that I think you would like about this,
including The Rock. If you think about it, he got paid a lot of money to use his size and athleticism to just throw people around.
Yeah, well, that is one thing on Rogan's interview with Musk yesterday is because for the folks
we
might not remember,
what did he say? Anything good?
Well, you remember when he and Musk were going to when Musk and Zuckerberg were going to like fight. You remember that?
Is that still
well? Well, Zuck chickened out, and Musk basically
look, ignoring money, ignoring who Zuckerberg is, ignoring his wrongs, ignoring that he banned me flat out from his site forever for no reason at all. As a middle-aged man that's kind of a nerd and has some fighting experience, I won't hold that against him, if you know what I mean. Well, he has none. He was training. Training is one thing. Even sparring is one thing. But a fight can really fucking hurt you, especially they're two untrained fighters with no fight experience.
Well, also though, Elon's
no matter how softcore they go, even with pads, there's a good chance a middle-aged man is gonna like tear a quad. I almost tore a quad today, just stepping in a hole by accident. Charlie horse out the ass, and I can feel if you're a big man, that's the thing is what it feels like to pull that muscle and even to come close to tearing it. And I came as close as fucking shit today just because I stepped in a hole because I'm 40. You know what I mean? I ain't fucking 20 anymore where I could bounce back.
Yeah. No, but so Musk was basically saying that
everybody laughs at Kevin Nash tearing his quad. Brother's what, 7 feet tall? Lucky, he tore his quad walking. Yeah, but he's 7 feet tall. I feel you.
Yeah.
And he was in his 40s, I think. I get it.
But no, Musk said that he could basically just beat Zuck by just throwing him because Elon Musk is
they're not in the same weight class at all.
No. Musk is actually a big dude, so he was saying that like he could just literally like he could literally just like lay on
what
like
did Joe think of that assessment? Do you agree?
he was like, yeah, he was like, well, and also
I hadn't
like
thought about it, but yeah, I thought because they had agreed to a fight, I figured they would be the same weight class.
no, but
I mean,
like,
there can be a height difference, and you still be like, because how do you think I got fights?
well,
You know what I mean? You have
and
to trim
also,
down a bit if you want to fight the light heavyweights, right?
well,
If you're
and-
a natural heavyweight, it's tough to fucking trim weight. I'll tell you, gain weight for the smaller guys is way easier than trimming weight when you're a natural heavyweight.
well, and also like Elon actually
Especially when
does,
you're a businessman for real and you're just doing it as a lark because you're having a midlife crisis or whatever.
yeah,
Right.
but also,
the golden boy is not free from criticism either. It's a
well,
little midlife crisis to all of a sudden decide he's a fighter. No, you know what I mean? Yeah, he's a big guy
yeah,
and he can win, but it's true of both of them because they agreed to a fight at one point.
yeah,
At
well,
least in theory.
yeah, well, but unlike Zuckerberg, Elon actually,
And not delivering is very like anti-PT Barnum of them.
that was so Elon Musk, because
you don't put a gun on the table, gentlemen, and then don't use it in the scene.
Yeah. No, I think it was
I'd love to watch the fight, even if it is Elon just picking him up and throw him as a big guy. Respect that he said that that's the strategy. Because if you're a big guy, you're just gonna pick him up and fucking throw. I didn't know. I figured they were gonna meet at like 185 or something because they're a bunch of corporate schlubs and they probably eat fast food all the time.
Well, also though, I think Zuck realized he was kind of out of his element, because the thing at Musk is he grew up in South Africa during apartheid, and so he actually got into fights early on. Like, say what you will,
I ain't even gonna question it. I'm just saying, like, yeah, if there's that much of a weight difference, that part doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
Two complete scrub newbies never fought a real fight, like even an amateur fight in their life. They've only sparred. And they're not in the same weight class. The one in the smaller weight class is probably going to lose, and it's probably going to be ugly.
Yeah,
that's why weight classes exist.
Well, the one in the smaller weight class
it's just not fair otherwise.
The one who's never the guy who's in a smaller weight class who's never fought because he was in prep school all his life versus the scrappy kid who, fought for.
I might be a grappler, but like even this is a truism even in like boxing.
Yeah.
Because they hit harder. They're like, maybe you can get a small guy that has like a hard 1-2. Like he's got that one combination he can really land and put it in, right?
Yeah.
But the average punch coming out of a heavyweight is probably close to as hard as that, and that's all they're throwing. You're lightweight, you can only throw so much weight behind it.
Yeah.
Especially with gloves on.
Well, no, it's like
right. That's why you got to pick and defense has been the name of the game basically since the days of Rocky Marciano. Yeah. Another topic on the Lost episode. Random ass shit.
Well, also like
rambles about King Philip's War for fucking 10 minutes.
In the
comes in. Sam's like, I want to talk about the Elon Musk Joe Rogan interview. I'm like, have you heard about the story of the first Thanksgiving?
Well, considering this episode is like titled the 1st of November, though, it is appropriate though. So
yeah. Well, hey, if you're of that stripe that believes in freedom, and if you're listening to this show, you do, and maybe me and you differ on what freedom is, and that's okay, right? At least like being thankful. Like I don't know, like the left wants to paint the first Thanksgiving as bad. And I get it how some Indian tribes probably from other parts of the country maybe don't see it the same. But like up here, like most of us know that story. That's local history.
Yeah.
That's this country's history. Yeah, they fought. You're right. They fought and people killed each other on both sides. And then it was like the worst winter in history. And those Indians were just like, yo, white dude, you okay? Like, here's some turkeys. Let's just fucking get warm and we'll teach you some shit. And they were like, hey, have you tried corn?
Here's my question, Max. Here's the most important question. How do you like to prepare your turkey generally?
Oh, I'll share. I'm a fantastic chef.
I know.
I prepare two. Generally speaking, in terms of like seasoning, I just roast them. But I lightly season them usually with just like basil and maybe a little oregano, some thyme if I'm feeling spicy, and just roast it just right. The trick is a lot of people can't cook turkey and get it the right moistness, but also the right like color, right? Well, the trick is that I just rub the littlest bit of like a teaspoon of oil on the palm of my hand, and I massage the turkey all over its turkey body right before, after I put the seasoning on. So what that does.
Do you brine the turkey?
No, I just get a fresh turkey. I get the ones with like all the fucking gizzards and neck like separate, and I don't even use them. I know a lot of Southern people use them. I find them kind of gross, but that's because like I have a specific diet anyway. I can really only eat the white meat anyway. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh,
Maybe
yeah,
two of them, so you don't run out of it, because we use the dark meat to make. I use the dark meat to make like soup and sandwiches.
Yeah.
With a Portuguese roll. My God. I make the turkey sandwiches on, I guess it's kind of a local thing because Portuguese people aren't like, and I don't mean Brazilian, I mean from Portugal. You feel me? In Europe, that's where like my stepdad's family's from. They're all Portuguese. Like my great grandmother and her husband, he only spoke Portuguese and she mostly spoke Portuguese. So we have that culture here. They all settled in this one spot, and like their bulky rolls that they cook are like, they have this like really good, it's hard but soft texture, similar to like French bread, but a little more hearty. And to make turkey sandwiches and the leftovers of them things is divine. But you got to get them rolls on a Sunday morning because the bakers are all fucking Catholic. And if you get them when they're going out of church, that's when they've baked up the most. Especially if you get them during Lent, because you can get the hot cross bun take on it. And hot cross buns are fucking amazing.
They are. I've had one.
Yeah. Well, like around here, like everybody's Catholic. I was talking to my wife about this. It's like her dad, I talk about my father-in-law, was a bit of a rebel himself in his own way. And by that, it's because he was raised Catholic, because his mother is literally in charge of Catholic education for like the area he grew up in, like not just that one city, but all of it. She's like the head nun. She passed recently out of the short battle with cancer. Well, it was probably long, but from when she found out until when she was gone was only a couple months. But she was an old Catholic church lady, and my father-in-law, as corny as I saw him in his middle age when I first met him, and he hated my guts, and he was like a Bible thumper in his own way. He was rebellious, and he used to like rock and roll. He played in a band. We're actually more alike. That's why he ended up becoming so close with me. But at first he hated me, but he rebelled against being Catholic and became like a born again. But then he fell out with the church because he didn't believe in like the organized church being the only way to God anymore. And he became a minister like me. I got him registered right before he died because that was, I felt that he deserved a title like that. I'm of course, ordained minister through the Universal Life Church as well. And you can be too for like $5. I guess it's meaningless, but I have studied like various branches of theology to the point that I feel it's okay to, and I by the way, I just got my like certificate about that for how long I've been certified. I've been certified for 14 or 15 years, and I've married people, and I've performed services, weddings, and a couple funerals.
Yeah. No, you have a pretty
I
good
don't
grasp
register with the
on.
state of Massachusetts for one reason, is because they have a random selection pool for people that like don't have a pastor, and I don't want to be forced to do a gay wedding because I genuinely like don't like that. I would be uncomfortable. That's what it is. I don't want to ruin. It's not even like I hate you. I don't want to ruin your day because I'm the uncomfortable guy. But I would find it. How could I not?
Yeah. I just think that the government ought to stay out of marriage, honestly.
That's what I've been saying all along. Like, I just think that's not the government's business. It's the church. It's your community. It's you and your partner. It's a lot of things that should be holding you to the vow that you're making. And I always took all that part seriously. How many people don't? Because we've been married a pretty long time and we were together a long time before that. And I'm saying, how many people I've watched take it and everybody act like, oh, they're a better, oftentimes they'll be the ones acting like they're a better couple than you. You know what I mean? They like try to power flex and they're divorced now.
Especially on social media. Like this is the thing. Like I actually had to get off Instagram for a while because there was a point when I was like 21 or 22 where I was really depressed because like all my friends from high school
showing off these like over the top corny romance photos.
Yeah, and weddings and like in
weddings, yeah. And then half those people, at least half, are fucking divorced statistically, right?
Yep. Well, yeah, a lot of them are starting to get divorced. You know, and
I'll say this: my wife's friend group seems to be fucking weird for our generation. Not me, because I don't even know what's become of my quote unquote friend group. I just became the king of the freaks because I'm big and a little bit charismatic or whatever.
Yeah.
It wasn't a title I like accepted. I was kind of just bullied them for the most part and made them get me like extra lunch.
You're well read though. I will say that. Like you don't look like
That's
the guy.
why I'm gonna have a motherfucker, because if they're stupid enough to get me an extra fucking lunch so I don't beat you up, then fucking give me an extra lunch, you know?
Yeah,
I've read
but
a few books. I know how to fucking play the game.
Yeah,
you know what
like,
one of those was? This Influential Young Men. If you haven't read it, here we go. Max recommends a book, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yep, I've read that.
Improve your interpersonal skills. You've read that, right? Because it was probably mandated as part of a course that you took, whether in high school or college.
No, my mom actually recommended.
There you go. Yeah, and your mom's a successful businesswoman. We might recommend the audience. Yeah. This is crazy how this one book has helped so many people, including a guy you might have heard of. What's his name? Oh, it's been so long. Donald J. Trump.
Oh,
he wrote actually like one of the reprints. He wrote the foreword to it.
Yeah. Well, no, that's why like people who say, oh, well, Sam's like, you know, such a nice guy. Like, well, you know, part of that is my nature, but also like part of that is because I read that book and was like, well, how can I put this into my show? And like, yeah, like that's why like I'm not even saying this as like a brag, but like that's why like I'm not one of these like trashy like drama streamers who says they're gonna go to people's houses and stab people now because because they're making fun of people. Like Cog might want to read this book.
I mean, here's the thing about like ironic posting on the internet.
Like I hate to bring that up, but like
the people that you don't, no, it's fine. Like, cause that's something like, yeah, maybe there's certain people I don't want to talk about, right? Because it's not even because they're not worth the time, but they're not worth the drama of, because I don't have a beef with them. But I kind of have a beef with when you start saying that and you think that you're immune because you're irony posting.
Yeah,
let me explain how this works, okay? If you say you're a pedophile, ironically, I'm just going to take you at your word and assume you are, because only somebody who's even borderline or thought about, like, you're giving yourself an out in your own mind, I believe. If you do the ironic pedophile thing as a response to the accusation of it from whether he wants to admit it or not, and let's dig deep into it. It's from a brother, which is a somewhat credible source, but he's discredited the source as well, to be fair, with his other brother saying that this guy has mental health issues. So then it's up for the audience to decide. And what Cog doesn't understand is like his aggressive behavior by saying things like he wants to burn down the house of and stab anonymous internet users who are making fun of him, saying your brother says you're a pedophile. Well, your brother did say you're a pedophile. And you know what? That's a good little headline because it says exactly what happened. It leaves out context, yeah, but we live in the age of the internet and you make your living off the internet. It's all sound bites.
And also, it's
just
not
what happens.
just
Ours were like either me making fun of a boomer and everybody laughing along except him, or like toilet flush, right? Ours are innocent memes. Your memes are, I've even, my wife now is aware of Cog simply by the fact of every time there's a short clip on my Twitter feed of him, it's him spurging out, and she now knows that's the guy that just spurgs out about everything.
Yeah, and see, like the other thing too is like
a clip of him, it's going to be funny because he's going to be so fucking mad about some random internet user that he says doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, and then he wants to stab like the thing that he wants to stab.
He can do whatever he wants, you know. I just think what a waste of time, especially when like he's relying on his audience for donations. However I feel about that, right? And he gets real hostile with people in his audience. Well, it's no one, like maybe they wouldn't have donated. You're right? Maybe but like maybe they would have. I'll tell you, at one point before the Christopher Cantwell feud, I was kind of one of those people with him. I told him, you know, I would donate because you're a pro Second Amendment guy, because he was an anarchist, fucking ANCAP or whatever. I was like, you know what I like? Guns. You say you like guns too. Go to the range and shoot and film that. And maybe that's like a Patreon thing that I might donate for. And he never actually fucking did it.
Right.
See, sometimes people are actually just on the fence about it and they just want to see something out of you. Yeah, your job is you're a dancing fucking monkey. That's the problem. Our job isn't that. I dance for free, bitch.
Well,
you know what? Like, there's more honor in dancing for free than there is for being a $2 hoe. That's on the unholy about that one.
Well,
back to my radio show last night, which by the way was an absolute blast, and I want to thank everybody. Dude, at one point we had quite a few people in chat. I never thought that would happen. I just wanted to throw back to the old times when I used to play jams and some wicked people would listen to it, and it was a fucking blast. So
I did listen to a little bit of it while I was waiting for my folks, but yeah, Kick's app wasn't working real well on airport Wi-Fi. Well, so
the other thing was like nobody was in the chat except like me and Dalek, and he was like, "Oh, well, why don't people post?" And I'm like, "Because Kick makes you have an account, and then it asks you for a phone number, and I don't blame anybody. I said, don't get in chat. It's fine. We'll do it old school. There ain't no chat. You know, you're chatting your mind." And hopefully I entertain and I feel like I did a good job. Everybody said it was fun, had a blast. It was old school. Yeah, we pirated some shit, essentially. I ain't going to do it all the time for that very reason. But that's what we used to do with Cryptic, because in the end, it gets shut down by the recording industry.
I mean, for folks who don't know,
they changed the law to exempt internet radio from the loophole of playing music as a broadcast station as long as you had your broadcaster's license, which they did, right? Now they said you actually have to license the specific music. It used to be if you're a broadcaster, you can play music in the good of like the public interest of collectively what people like in terms of art. That's how it was decided in Congress and shit, right? But internet changed the game, because now people could just do pirate radio pretty easily with the click of a button. So they changed the law and basically outlawed it. And it's called the DMCA, and it fucking sucks. And everybody's still complaining about it. That's basically one of the things that brought it there. Also Napster and like Kazaa and LimeWire and that kind of shit, which is where we used to get a lot of our legitimate music too. I was talking about this on the radio show last night. Like my friends would use that, and they're artists. Like they're sending me their files that way because it was just easy. And plus, if you could get people to find your shit on Kazaa legally, They might buy one of your albums.
There are some
Which is
movies.
how Spotify and iTunes were born, because it turns out the piracy problem is just a convenience thing.
Yeah.
For the most part. Some people will pirate anyway just because they can. And I don't blame people in today's day and age where they're dipping their hands in your pocket in every way imaginable, and they just come out with, a poop stain because they stuck their finger in your butthole while they were there. I got to get my vulgarity in, It's like a quota now. Somebody said my language was atrocious. I guess they didn't hear like the bit about like Obama fucking the guy on cocaine where I went into excruciating detail about it. Not that I even necessarily believe that it happened.
Wait.
Just to watch people squirm.
Wait. Someone in our chat like complained.
Yeah, like 2 weeks ago. I don't think there was like a regular. It was somebody I never seen before, but they said, your guest language is atrocious. And I was like, fuck, I'm sorry. I'm the worst ever. And then you were like, yeah, fuck.
Oh yeah, that's right. Well, yeah, if they were upset with your atrocious language, they would be upset with like my horny post in there.
Yeah, I get upset with that. I'm like, Sam, the wrestling girl. Does AEW have any like actual wrestler women, or is it just tits and ass? I've never seen y'all post anything that isn't tits and ass wrestlers. None of them look like legitimate athletes in any way. They look like underwear models. They look like divas from back in the day.
Yes.
You say what you want about Charlotte Flair. She looks like a fucking athlete. She works on her fucking body. If you're not a muscular person. Me either. I'm not even rating her attractiveness, but I'm saying she looks like somebody who could probably kick your ass, let alone another woman. Same thing, right?
Yeah.
And Jade Cargill, I guess, was the one that they had, but she was just on like SmackDown.
Gina Carano, but she's out of the industry altogether.
Gina Carano wrestled? I didn't know that. I thought she was an actress.
Gina Carano was like in MMA for like a long time.
Look, you guys should but like on a week-to-week basis, all you guys talk about is Velvet Sky, and like I've watched or whatever. What's her name? Blue? Is it Blue Pants?
Sky
is
Blue.
She Blue Pants from NXT? Is that why she's Blue Sky?
Yeah.
Okay, then I know who she is, and she's like meh. As a wrestler, I'm just purely judging her wrestling.
Yeah, no,
it's meh.
Yeah,
y'all ain't into it because if it were wrestling you cared about, you wouldn't care about her turning evil and be like, yes, be my evil mommy, you sick fucks. I have I'm an ordained minister, sir, and that is a sin, and you're dirty, and you should go pray upon your fucking sins between you and Jesus. Amen. You want her to be your goth mommy. Yeah, I get you, because you think she's hot. And you can't steer it as anything else other than that. You dirty motherfuckers. Jesus is watching you. He's rubbing his fucking, shaking his finger in shame. Blue Sky, Velvet Sky. It's the skies that are always the one that like show their ass on the bottom rope, ain't it?
Yeah, I had a whole.
What happened to Wendy Richter? You know what? Wendy Richter looked like she'd eat all them motherfucking bitches for breakfast, don't she? Fabulous Moolah probably could, for real, legit. You know what I'm saying? And you're not even allowed to talk about her. Because her female wrestlers were also doing another job on the side, and they make her out to be the devil because of it. But that's just how the industry was. Like, showbiz is all like that, and you think wrestling's not showbiz?
Well, here's the thing: is
the product of her time. She'd be like, "Yes, I have some girls, and if you get them on the card, they can do favors for the boys."
Yeah.
Yep, that's how it was. It was like that. I actually don't I don't think you can. the thing is, WWE has stripped her accomplishments, but Fabulous Moolah was the champion for like 30 years, and for the same reason Bruno Sammartino was the champion forever, because it was believable, because she looked like she could actually fucking stretch these girls in real life if it was a fight.
Yeah,
Because she trained all of them anyway, and even when she got old, she could probably still kick your ass, like a Stu Hart kind of thing.
Yeah. So Gina Carano, her thing was she was in MMA and then transitioned to acting.
Okay, but I'm talking about the shit you guys share.
No.
I'm so interested in the AEW women's division. All right, let's take Blue Sky off the table because that one's obvious. Name me a woman in the AEW women's division that's having great matches, and that's what you're there for.
I'll
wait.
Tony Storm, from the clips I've seen, is actually
matches or her new persona where she's like a silent movie star and acting all hot, and you sharing pictures of her like rubbing something on her ass in front of the commentator. Yeah, you're gonna tell me, Sam, with a straight face, that you're sharing pictures of her rubbing her panties because you think she's such a good fucking wrestler?
That's not me that does that. That's Will.
You're in fucking replies talking about how I wouldn't even be able to concentrate if she put her panties in front of me at commentary, and you're gonna sit here with a straight face, Mr. Whitfield. You're gonna sit here with a straight face and tell me that you shared that clip and engaged in the conversation about it because you think she's a really good female wrestler.
No, that's not why I shared it, obviously, but
obviously. That's what I'm saying. Y'all need Jesus or something.
Well,
bless your little hearts, man. Horny for the wrestling chicks. I honestly, as big a wrestling fan as I was growing up, after about Sunny, I was over it. And you know what? Yeah, Sunny proves the point because she just got like 26 years.
Here's the thing though. The woke mob killed the modeling industry. So now all the hot chicks have to go into wrestling.
Yeah, but that was what like the TNA Knockouts division was, and then a lot of them bitches learned to wrestle. Actually,
yeah, but
like the beautiful people started out sucking, and they were just like their whole gimmick, and that's why I didn't really like it at first. Was to shake their little booty on the fucking ring ropes, right?
That's why
it's dumb, but they ended up being good wrestlers and good heels and shit. And I'll give them their due. They weren't just pretty chicks. But all y'all is sharing is panty shots of Blue Sky and Tony Storm. And you ain't appreciating no wrestling. I've seen Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels go at it for an hour, and it doesn't look like slapping your ass in front of the commentator, my friend. Maybe your thigh. Maybe Shawn does a little too much of that.
You're not wrong. What's
called the fuck out by a minister, no less. You should say some Hail Marys or something.
I do.
Forgiveness.
I do. I do. But it's not even so much for that.
My wife just came in and said, she's been listening to a couple minutes, and she said, not those kind of Hail Marys. The ones with 5 knuckles.
No, I
added that part, to be fair. I'm vulgar, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, we both are. That's
what she meant, though.
That's the whole.
I just put it in the most vulgar way possible.
Yes.
So that's why I make the big bucks here on the Whitfield Report, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, listen. We actually did have a president who said, I like to grab women by the pussy. Which my only problem with that
No, he didn't say I like to. He said they'd let you. They want you to.
Which he's not wrong.
Yeah, he was just talking about hoes. And if that's a crime, then you gotta put Isham in jail, because I've been bumping $2 hoe for, since I was a kid. There's
I
just a certain
mean,
type of girl, and I'm kind of convinced that it's the kind of girl y'all are sharing. That I swear to God, Sam, I have seen a lot of shit in WWE that I consider trash TV. But that was Tony Storm rolling on the desk, right?
yes.
What did she do? Exactly. Describe the scene for us. My wife's listening, by the way.
I mean, I could.
No pressure.
I mean, I could just pull the clip up. That would be easier.
No, but it's better if you describe it first. I think the audience needs to know. Hey, we have audio listeners, people.
Oh,
people out there. You got to give it to them.
That's true. Well,
I'm such an asshole.
First off, I'm not. I'm their fly guy. It's Nashville who's like Mr. Black conservative.
Oh, you're not always just the reply guy on the Simpy Wrestling post. Don't give me that either. I've seen it, Sam. We've all seen it. The people that watch this show follow you on Twitter. They've all seen it. The thirsting. And you're all thirst, and then you're all like, well, I'm not the thirsty one. I'm shaming him for thirsting. And it's a circle. And so you all cover each other that way. But really, it's just a thirst trap circle for wrestling bitches, which are actually really kind of probably low on the totem pole in terms of like what you'd want to make an actual wife if you think about it for 5 seconds. I'm sorry to say, but there's probably a lot of sleeping your way to top in the wrestling business, particularly probably in the indie wrestling business, if you know what I mean. But even Vince McMahon just paid off some bitches. That's why they like pushed him out for a while or whatever, right? So like, all I'm saying is maybe you don't want a wrestling girlfriend because they might be Tammy Lynn Sitch.
Well, a lot of them have issues too.
Or like Miss Elizabeth, right? The wholesome Miss Elizabeth that died of a drug overdose.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or like these girls, even the ones you think are probably decent, that have banged like every wrestling guy you know. And if that turns you on, by the way, if that's a plus, you're what they call, there's a medical term for that, a cuck.
Yeah, which I'm not. I'm not one of those.
Right. So I'm saying, like, yeah, I get it. You think they're hot. I'm just pointing out. I mentioned don't meet girls at a wrestling show. I've said this before, and everybody kind of agreed with me. I think you guys missed also that, like, it means the wrestler women, too.
Yeah, no,
they are not wife material.
I actually did get that part of the memo.
Every once in a while, but probably only to, like, either it's this one rare, like, AJ and CM Punk where they just say married forever because they're both a couple, like, nerds. Or they have like some horrible public breakup and then it's like ultra embarrassing because they were in the public eye as like a team in wrestling, like Macho Man and Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Either way, you probably want to avoid wrestling girls because especially indie shows. If you guys go to indie shows, you could probably fuck the wrestling bitches, but it'd probably cost you money.
Avoid rocker chicks.
And you probably walk away with it with like 3 or 4 STDs.
Avoid rocker chicks.
But like, ladies, don't think I'm just picking on the wrestling women because at the indie show, all the guys have STDs too because they all fuck each other. Because they're like weirdos, you know what I mean? So like, yeah, remember that at the next indie show when you're cheering.
This show
the big stud in the second match is banging the bitch you're cheering for, you know.
This show went way off the rails from Thanksgiving to
No, you brought up the simp posts and I had to, point it out.
Yeah, but
in the name of Jesus, we pray for your soul, Sir Samuel.
Well, amen.
And especially Mr. Nash, you will. And don't think I don't see you, Morpheus. You're the most guilty of the like I'm the bunk police, but actually a bit pervy of all three of them because you do the bonk police the most, but you simp the hardest. I see you. You're like a pack of a little den of horny thieves stealing panty shots of Tony Storm instead of wrestling. You're supposed to be watching wrestling, wholesome. Whatever happened to handsome Jimmy Valiant, Sam?
Who?
The Iron Sheik and Hulk Hogan.
Oh yeah, him. Well, Hulk got like canceled.
Yeah, but he's been back. Like WWE's had him on a bunch of shit. And then he went on Joe Rogan and just lied through his teeth, but Joe Rogan believed every word of it because it was Hulk Hogan. And look, he might lie, okay? He might lie about fucking everything, and he might say shit just to impress the person he's in front of. But he's entertaining still doing that, so I don't care. I
do believe. Well, Jesse Ventura called Hulk a liar, and I believe.
No, Hulk is a liar. That's like he says shit. He was. If you look at the Joe Rogan interview, he says things that are absolutely like impossible. Like he said, he gained time by flying between Japan and America so often of the year that he wrestled like 400 days in a year because of the time difference. Yeah, brother. Hulk Hogan. But you know what? That makes him like the ultimate salesman. He's like a modern day P.T. Barnum, right? You got to respect the hustle. Like he's out there like, yeah, brother. And we did it in front of $19 trillion fans. And we raised all the money in the world. And then I cured cancer. And me and Andre the Giant rode off into the spotlight playing bass for Metallica. It was awesome, dude.
I feel like
that bitch Linda fucked it all up.
I feel like
the fucking love sponge. Imagine the fact though, like he's kind of uncanceled, but the fact that he got canceled is all because of a gay op by Bubba the Love Sponge. That's why he took Gawker down. Because they couldn't help but do like a Discord troll level op on him, on Hulk Hogan. We'll get my wife to catfish him and see what he says, and then we'll share the sex tape. And he said racist things. He said the N-word.
What about, speaking of bad websites, what about...
Hey, all the black wrestlers have still had him on their podcast, and not even because they have like a contract with WWE. Like neither side works with WWE at this point, and they'll still have like Booker T's had him on to talk a bunch of times. I think Mark Henry had him on his podcast. If he's such a rabid, evil racist, why would those guys consider him a friend of any variety? You know what I mean?
Well, that's.
But he is a liar. But he was a good liar when I was a kid because he encouraged me to drink my milk and take my vitamins. My prayers.
Yeah. What do you think of?
What do you think's in the My wife's giving me a dirty look. What do you think was in the vitamins? This isn't a secret. He said this shit in court. He sued Vince McMahon over it, and Vince won like a true pimp Don boss because he probably was giving them all fucking steroids by the looks of things. But I was like 8, and the Ultimate Warrior was fucking awesome.
And
here's the conceit. Like, think about this. If it's all fake, which like they basically openly, blatantly slap you in the face with now, then why not steroids? Besides the fact they're illegal, but a lot of these guys get prescriptions for testosterone shit. So why not?
Yeah.
I get it with wrestling and baseball and like legitimate competition, but since you want to slap me in the face with the fact that you're not legitimate competition, even though like part of the enjoyment of wrestling is having to at least for momentarily suspend your disbelief that maybe this shit's real, because otherwise you're not going to have any fun with it, and the cynical nerds don't have any fun with it, and you could tell because AEW doesn't sell any fucking tickets. The nerds watch it on TV and then they're like, oh, did Dave Meltzer give it 4.5 stars? Oh, then it's not any good. Dave Meltzer has not given Kurt fucking Angle a 5-star match. You know who else Dave Meltzer's never given a 5-star match to? Eddie Guerrero. Chris Benoit. Rey Mysterio.
Well, Chris Benoit is dead. So
Shawn Michaels.
So
like
there's that.
if I name the people he never given 5 stars to, you're like, how is that even possible? But he's given like 14 of them to Kenny Omega. So you're telling me Kenny Omega is better than like Ric Flair, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Macho Man Randy Savage. I'm not even talking about like Hogan. Yeah, Hogan sold the most tickets, but he wasn't like a work rate guy, right? Like I'm talking about good wrestlers. Actual in the ring. Bret Hart. Kenny Omega is that much better than Bret Hart? You're fucking kidding me, right? Like AEW fans buy that shit? They tell that to themselves? I'm not even shitting on Kenny Omega, but Bret Hart is Bret Hart.
Yeah.
You watch a Bret Hart match. Go back now if you got the fucking Peacock, which I do, because hey man, yeah, I'm gonna watch goddamn LA Knight. Yeah.
Yeah. You have
Crown.
So you have Peacock, right?
And you're watching Tony Storm slap her ass. I'm just saying, yeah, of course.
So I have to ask, how was Mersh's fame?
I didn't watch that shit. Why would I watch a Teddy Hart is just a low life druggie that might have killed a bitch? I know the story. You know, it's purely speculation. If we, I get that. And so Mersh is there. Why? What did he meet him on like an Opie and Anthony podcast while he was like jerking himself off to the thought of Anthony asking him an actual question instead of just calling him, caller Mersh? Now he's Hollywood Mersh, of course. Give me a fucking break.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to watch the Mersh documentary. God, I have much better thing. I would watch a fucking 20-hour documentary on Chris Chan before I would watch a Mersh documentary or even the clip. Like, I wouldn't even search out the clips of it. No. I'll watch LA Knight, and I'm actually rooting for him to beat Roman Reigns, even though it kind of doesn't make logical sense. But he's just kind of cool. He looks like a wrestler.
Yeah.
And he doesn't give a fuck. And that's all it really takes. People aren't as fucking fickle. At least WWE fans aren't. I don't know. I guess Kenny Olivier over there has to give a 5-star Grammy performance every time he steps in the fucking ring. But I'm pretty hyped to see LA Knight like do his shitty blunt force trauma, not quite a fucking cutter finish on Roman's big ass and actually break the streak and surprise everybody. And also, it's, there's a lot of intrigue as to whether CM Punk, who is now a free agent, could show up at Survivor Series in Chicago. And look, if I'm Triple H, I probably would want to at least try to make that happen. And you know what, Seth Rollins said something interesting that caught my attention on Raw, because he said Cry Me a River, which is exactly the line that got CM Punk fired because he got in a fight with it over that fucking kid there. Jungle Jim. Jungle Boy. And they're saying it on Raw. So at the very least, they're fucking with you, whether it's going to happen or not. And then Dave Meltzer, once again, was like, it's not going to happen. They'll never have him back. And I'm like, yeah, or they told you that to get you to say that so people are guessing, because it's more of a surprise that way if people have different theories and shit, and it's good for engagement, even if he doesn't show up, you dumb fuck.
Yeah.
If you believe, look, if you think he's going to show up or you think he don't, it don't fucking matter. I'm going to enjoy LA Knight stomping a mud hole in fucking Roman Reigns in Saudi Arabia in front of the rabid Jew hating fans. Oh, I wonder, is that actually, they might chant something anti-Semitic in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
But the Crown Prince is very proud of Crown Jewel, and he's been trying to use it as a vehicle to showcase how much more progressive Saudi Arabia is become. So maybe he'll, like, if you chanted something that was bad optics, he might have you killed, is a possibility. Yeah, they're probably being particular about who gets let into the event now that I think about it. Like they did after Jamal Khashoggi got murdered.
Yeah, which, by the way, was brought to you by Obama.
Yeah. And then they held the wrestlers in the fucking plane hostage for a little bit just to make sure that everybody was accounted for or whatever, but they were scared shitless. I would imagine. I don't know. I can't think off the top of my head, anybody who specifically said anything, but they were like on an airport runway being told you can't leave Iran by order of the crown prince. He's upset. That's the price of doing business in Saudi Arabia. I mean, I said Iran.
Maybe they should.
They might as well do Iran. The Vince would have. Bro, the amount of money Saudi Arabia threw at him, how could he say no, though? For like 2 shows a year.
I mean, I would.
Yeah, sure. I'll make Goldberg fight that was an awful match, right? Goldberg, Undertaker. It was like the worst match I can imagine because they just fucking were old and like concussed the shit out of. Well, Goldberg, I think, was concussed at the beginning of the match. Why did that happen? Why did that travesty that could have killed both of them happen? Because the Crown Prince wanted to see Goldberg versus The Undertaker. He thought that was cool, and he paid a lot of money to both of them to fucking make it happen because he's got all the money,
Yeah.
I imagine that might be hard to say no to, right? Especially for a noted, like, money-hungry guy like Vince McMahon. Yeah, pal. We'll get you. They've had all kinds of crazy fucking, old people and treated them in legitimate matches over there. Now that they had Shawn Michaels come out of retirement. I never thought I'd see that. Because he was out for so long, and then it was awful, and I wish I didn't see it. Thanks, Saudi Arabia. Our true greatest ally with bad wrestling television sometimes.
What if the NFL went over to Saudi Arabia? We're talking about
That's the kind of thing they would court, though, because the Crown Prince, he likes wrestling, but he's also a sports guy and like a gambling guy. If anybody knows anything about him, he's actually kind of popular in the hacker world because he used to do bounties for people to do work for hacking for him, and you can imagine what that might entail. But like he was always generous and like upfront with everybody he was soliciting on the old technology forums on like IRCs and shit. 4chan even. Yeah. The Crown Prince looks for work, and if you're exceptional, he pays you good money. You just got to be okay, I guess, with being a part of the war machine that's like kills the journalist or whatever. A little bit of a downside. Moral dilemma.
Well, it seems like a lot of people
That's why he pays really well,
Well, it seems like a lot of our people in the defense industry at least love this guy then.
They do. They're like, that's the problem. That's why it's so weird that Biden's like step into Saudi Arabia. It's like the dumbest thing I've ever heard. They're like one of the few stable, they're a Muslim country. You could make the argument from like a Democrat point of view that they're kind of harsh on women over there. But like the point of the Saudi Arabia WWE event, one of the things is they let women wrestle to be like, hey, we're like not completely retarded about what you guys want in society. We've now let women drive. And if it's an emergency, they can go out without a man present. And I kind of like, as much as, that might sound silly, like I'm making a joke, that's kind of true, actually.
Yeah.
And I feel like that might be a step in the right direction to some degree. But then the problem is we see if you give women too many rights like we did, you end up in our situation, which is fucked. So
I hope your wife's not sitting. I hope
she's sitting right there. She's heard me say worse, I'm sure. She just rolls her eyes or she puts her headphones on. She nodded to that, so she clearly doesn't just have her headphones on.
So I don't, because see, the one thing I worry about is like, am I going to witness a murder on the show?
No. She wouldn't do it with the camera on. Eventually, though. Just not on stream.
Yeah.
Now she's looking at me like she's going to kill me. So like as if prophecy, you know.
Because see, like if I have to explain to poor Shmuley that like your wife killed you, well then he's just gonna be sad.
He's too busy with mono or whatever. Strap. Oh, sorry,
Yeah,
strap. Yeah, mono's a different thing. Yeah, I forgot about that.
This week it's strap.
Yeah.
So.
Next week it'll be I'm not gonna say what my wife said. I was gonna make it a brain disease, but she said something else. I was gonna say like cranium shrinkus or something, you know, and she said never mind.
Well, next week it'll be ego shrinkage. Maybe not.
No, not if he overcomes the cold. Not if he's a good, devout follower of Marcus Aurelius.
No.
Jesus Christ. You need to get right with Sam. I'm telling you. You need to appreciate women's wrestling for wrestling. You're living in sin with these girls in your mind.
Yeah.
It's bad for the soul.
See,
Thou shalt not simp.
See, you said women's wrestling, but you giggled immediately afterwards. So you know it's just as much of a joke as much as I do.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah, that's why like nobody's watching. Y'all are, and this is how I know how bad the three of you are. Is you're all about that blue sky. Let's go back to that because there's more to it. Okay, you're all about that blue sky so much so that you watch fucking AEW Rampage with the other 47 people that watch the fucking Rampage program. Like I can even get watching Dynamite, maybe even Collision. You want to see like MJF? You ain't seeing MJF, the champion, on fucking Rampage. You're seeing Jobber Crew versus Mexican wrestling team, and then you're looking at fucking Blue Sky's ass. Tell me when I'm telling a lie, Sam. And that's why all 47 of you watch AEW Rampage. Is rampaging boners for Blue Sky and Tony Storm. Peak women's wrestling. Slapping their ass in the camera on purpose. Letting the rope go up their little thong for your entertainment. And you're all cheering for her to turn into your evil goth mommy. Yeah, my wife didn't know that before. I just wanted to impress upon her. That's what they're saying in their little trio. Hey, take note, my friend.
Hey, at least I'm honest about it. True. And also, Jesus hung out with prostitutes.
Like, yeah, but not to like encourage them. He wasn't there. He wasn't there to help act as like a fucking ad agency for them. You know, he wasn't a pimp. He didn't hang out with prostitutes to engage in their services.
If you
the word of God.
The last temptation of Christ would say otherwise, but you know, that's a movie. So.
And made by people that aren't big fans of him.
Correct.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, like, yes, you could definitely say that he hung out with prostitutes, but he wasn't like, yeah, slap that ass, baby. Here, I'm gonna just for no reason at all, right, Sam? Stop me when I'm telling a lie. This time, I got another one that'll make my wife fucking roll her eyes. For no reason at all, right here is a picture of usually Blue Sky's ass, right? And over here is a picture of Gunther with his hand in the air about to slap They're just next to each other, lined up for no particular reason at all, Jess.
Okay, that's Craig, who's like a Marine, and Marines are filthy. So
Yeah. I'm just saying, you line up Gunther's ass. I'm sorry, his hand on the ass as a slapping thing, but we're supposed to pretend it's just a random thing. And hey, it's funny. The first time I laughed, I popped. I did. I was like, "Ha ha!" He's slapping the ass. Y'all do it like every day.
I don't.
Does the shit get okay? Yeah, but like one of the people you like does. It's not always the same ones either. Y'all just find these creepy fucking pictures. Or do you actually watch Rampage? Maybe I assumed.
Well, I don't because Rampage is on is on at the same time as this current show usually. In case you didn't know.
No, that is Wednesday, right? Dynamite's Wednesday. Rampage is Friday, and that's the one with the blue sky.
Oh,
because that's where all the jobbers wrestle, and she's one of them. Or she's like among that pool of talent, let's just say. It's certainly not the A show or the B show. It's the T and A show.
Haha. Yeah.
See what I did there?
Yeah.
You guys are pervs. I'm shaming you.
So was my favorite comedian though. Norm Macdonald. May
He was a happily married man.
Norm? No,
at one point in time.
Well, yeah, at one.
That's a Norm kind of joke, no?
Yeah. Well,
maybe I botched the delivery because I don't keep a stone face as he does. Shmuley does it great. He's the best.
Shmuley's bit about like being in love with Laura Loomer is probably the best.
I mean, what bit? Desperately in love with Laura Loomer. That's not a bit, Sam.
And her.
Who told you that was a bit?
Oh, actually, well, I just assumed it was a bit, maybe. I assume
why are you gonna bring that up? He's gonna listen to this. He's sick. You're gonna bring up his heartache of just never getting the chance to get with his dream girl, Laura Loomer, for all those years.
Well, I mean, she might slash his tires.
Yeah, and he was all set with that. He knew that's part of the package. That's kind of why he likes her, because she'll slash his tires. And
well, she'll also chain herself to his fence post.
Loyalty, you see what I mean? Commitment. Huh?
Yeah.
No, that's not a bit. And because I said I'm not good at the Norm Macdonald thing of keeping a straight face, so I'm telling the truth. You can believe me about me when it would behoove me to do otherwise.
Is that a cigar you're smoking?
Yep.
Based in Rushfield.
Yeah, Rushfield. Based in Snoop Pilled.
Oh, it's one of those. I gotcha.
Yep. Anyway, what else did we have in the news this week?
The
Friends guy died. We didn't even talk about that in our mega show that no one will ever see.
Yeah. Did he commit suicide or
no? No. Every report I've seen said essentially he had a heart attack and he was found in the tub. Some differ on whether he was fucking drowned. I'm sure a coroner report will come out. The anti-vaxxers are saying because he was very, very pro-vax that it was like a vaccine-induced heart attack. I will point out that, like, although you can say it was a possibility, the other thing is he had to battle with drug addiction for many, many years and was in a middle-aged man. And so, like, oftentimes they just have a heart attack too, unrelated to COVID vaccines or anything. In fact, audience, heart disease, regardless of COVID, is like the number one natural and avoidable killer of Americans in this country because we don't take care of ourselves and it's getting worse all the time. And maybe COVID adds to it, but it was a big problem long before that. So it's just entirely possible that even though he was one of the biggest pro-vax guys ever, and he was like, you gotta kill me to get, or I'd kill you to get the vaccine booster when it comes out, or whatever. He was that wild. He was like, he had T-shirts he was selling about how proud he was to be vaxxed. Cool story, bro. Right? That's, I guess, his opinion. And then he was probably pro-mandates, I would assume.
Yeah.
But I just don't think it's fair to lump it with that, and then to make it political like that is a little bit of kind of gloating, and I just don't feel right with that unless it's John McCain. May he rot in hell.
Yeah.
I just don't think Matthew Perry rises to that level just because he was a pro-vax guy in Hollywood. They all were. And so even if the vax did cause his like thing, I just don't think gloating about it's a good look. Didn't he have kids or whatever?
Yeah,
or just he entertained people for. I don't like Friends. My wife fucking play that shit nonstop. A lot of people in the age group do, especially women. They really like the fucking show. I get it. I don't like it. Whatever. But the guy died and he entertained people. I don't really give a fuck how he was a weirdo about almost said the F slur again. And then about the vaccine because he's dead and he's got kids and it's kind of just sad.
Yeah. I was never big into Friends either.
Not for me, but all the people that really like that show, right? It's sad for them. It's a part of their like growing up in a lot of cases. Whatever.
Yeah.
And then I saw people saying, "Oh, don't feel bad for him," because I guess his character was involved in a storyline that they called homophobia. And so I looked into that because that didn't sound like the Friends that I hear in the background all the time, annoying the shit out of me. And turned out it's because his dad was like a gay cross-dresser or something. He was uncomfortable when he found that out, which is a normal reaction. And then I guess he ended up accepting his dad for who he was. So that's what they want to cancel him over when he's already dead, from a 25-year-old bit that basically the end moral of the story was to accept his gay dad, right?
Yeah, well,
But they made jokes about it because that's how a lot of people deal with discomfortable subjects, you know.
Well, you're not allowed to joke about anything ever, Max. In case you didn't know,
South Park made some fucking jokes.
Oh yeah, they did. I still have yet to watch that too.
It's good,
but yeah, the Pandaverse thing.
Just the clips that have gone around and upset everybody are good because almost every side doesn't take all the context. And then the other people who think they're real smart are like, yeah, they don't take either side. No, they take a side, but it's just not what you would think. And they go about it in their own way because that's how they are. They're special little snowflakes, Matt Parker and Trace. They are fucking... They tell their story their way, and they usually do have a hot take on it, but they get there through comedy. And it's no different. And they've made their point because Disney was like in panic mode at an investor meeting about it. And I'm sure they probably called Paramount to try and get them to fucking like tone it down. That's what Disney would do. Disney's been censoring people forever.
Yeah. Well, did you hear that that Disney's now like thinking about bringing back Iron Man? Is thinking of bringing back like Robert Downey Jr. to save Marvel.
It's not gonna. Nothing's gonna. It's not. They ran the superhero thing into the ground.
No. They did. They did.
They can bring him back. I don't. And it might even boost sales. But the new one, I guess I heard just as it was coming out was the Marvels. Now, is it my understanding based on the promotional art that it's like alternate universe, diverse Captain Marvels?
Yes.
That's the gayest thing I've ever heard.
So they so they
Talk
did
about
like
a panderverse.
yeah, they did like so they did like the 3 Spider-Man, right? For like that third Spider-Man movie
Sure,
that
yeah.
they did. And then they
Yeah,
were like
but the difference is that those 3 Spider-Men were all iconic in their own way to their own generation.
right. No, yeah.
And so the 3 of them coming together, because Spider-Man has those kind of stories, is not only possible, but kind of unique to Spider-Man as a property, that all that shit kind of lines up to allow that to happen and still be cool. And they want to do that for Brie Larson's character?
That's literally their logic is, hey, it worked.
But also make the other Spider-Man, quote unquote, in this case, diverse women of color and possibly sexual orientation? Is this what crowds are clamoring for, Disney? Bob Iger says, no, the stocks are going down, Kathleen Kennedy. And she says, no, put a black woman in there and make her gay. They're literally doing that. I mean, it's a good meme for a reason, right?
Yeah,
and that's kind of the brilliance of what they've done here too, is you don't need to see the hour-and-a-half special to know the joke, because everybody's laughing at Disney. Even the left laughs at Disney now. It's a fucking joke of a company. They pander too hard for most like normal gay people.
Yeah. No, you mentioned the Harry Potter game earlier, Max, and I want to bring this up. The Harry Potter game is less gay than Spider-Man 2.
I bet. No, I was looking at just the combat looks fucking cool, and so I'll play it for that reason. And plus, I'll give it this: it takes place in a different time frame, and you don't start with like first grade baby shit magic. All right, that's cool. I'll see where it fucking gives me a whirl. Can I blow some shit up and maybe even be an evil wizard? Maybe I'll be Voldemort or whatever, right?
Yeah,
that's kind of cool. I don't have to know the lore because it takes place before all that shit. Is kind of a cool concept.
Yeah,
Bring in somebody that does not give a fuck about it. If you got decent wizardy combat, that could be fun, and it looks pretty cool.
Yeah. No, that's the whole thing. Is Hogwarts Legacy is its own thing.
Yeah, I haven't played it myself, but like, how did it play on the Steam Deck?
What?
Hogwarts.
Oh, amazing.
Look nice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, now it's locked to 30 frames on the Steam Deck, but it's set everything to medium by default.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
it looks pretty good. I mean, it's an 800p screen, but it's also only like 7 inches or so.
Yeah.
When you're holding it in front of your face, it's got gyro controls. She didn't.
Yeah. I mean, on a handheld, 30 FPS is pretty good.
It's better than what Switch could do by a lot.
Yeah.
I find like the Steam Deck runs shit that like I thought, like Steam Deck runs Cyberpunk and it looks great. Again, it kind of locks at 30. You can get it up to like 40, and then you can lock the screen refresh rate to 40 and it looks all right, but you give up some of like the fidelity for that. But you can run it just fine at 30. It's a powerful little piece of machine for like under $400 now.
Yeah, I don't get these gamers who are like everything must
I actually
be
emulate Switch games on it.
I don't get these gamers who are like everything must be 60 FPS.
Well, it depends. I actually like she'll play the 30 lock games. I tend to shoot for 40, I find. I do prefer 60. It was a deal breaker with Starfield why I didn't play it on my Xbox is 30 lock, because it makes me sick. Because I'm trained, my eyes are trained, and I get motion sick, and my eyes are trained for 60 because I've been playing 60 on PC since the 80s. Like, even those old DOS games ran at 60 frames per second. I'm used to looking at 60 frames per second.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Whereas, like, Brits, most of their shit, especially in the 90s, the PAL stuff was 50 frames per second. Kind of like a weird tech fact. And so they're probably more used to that. And console gamers play a lot of games the last couple generations at 30 frames per second, which is actually unusual because the Super Nintendo output at 60. The NES output at 60, Atari output at 60. So it's like not, that is a new hardware thing, and I get it because they're pushing graphics more and more, and they're trying to keep it affordable because they want families to buy these things. It's a tricky market to keep your hardware competitive and affordable at the same time.
Yeah.
So they run at 30. But like with Starfield, I was just like, nah, fuck that, because I can run it at 60. A lot of people play Starfield on the fucking thing. Steam says you won't get 30 that way. It's not supported that way. I didn't buy Starfield, though, so I don't have it on Steam, and I'm not installing Windows on it just to play Starfield, which I didn't even finish. You know what I did get? Ooh. I got the DLC for Shredder's Revenge. And I'm just like chilled with that. The boy's playing it. Now he went to bed, so I'll probably play that when we're done here because it's a roguelike mode where you chop people up as fucking the Ninja Turtles. Fuck your AAA games. Shredder's Revenge.
Oh, speaking of games, I'm going to be playing RoboCop.
Hell yeah. I've seen reviews saying it's a masterpiece from like GGG Man or whatever. The title of his, I didn't watch the video, but the title of his video was RoboCop is basically a masterpiece.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was saying. Like, my wife was sitting here while I was geeking out. I was like, this is awesome. This is metal as fuck. RoboCop as fuck.
Yeah.
It's the one shooter where I'll accept going slow. I tend to be like a boomer shooter guy because I like to go fast. I like Quake. I don't like Halo, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I gotcha.
That's what I grew up on. So it kind of suits me just right. There's a lot of really good quick games now. Some of them are too quick for me because I'm getting old. Boomer shooters, I still have some to beat. I got to beat that Ion Fury, the one in the build engine, the Duke Nukem engine that they made a couple years ago. I tried playing that the other day. It looks so great for a 1998 engine, you know? They just made it in 2019. And basically, it was supposed to be like the female Duke sidekick that's kind of Duke-ish for a chick. But then they have a licensing dispute about Duke Nukem or whatever. And they just made it in the build engine for cheap as a passion project. And my God, is it fun. And it's fast. And I need my shooters to have some speed to them. And I can bunny hop. That's a big one. You gotta give me the bee hop to actually do something. Otherwise, I'm just jumping like a jackass. Either way, I'm jumping constantly. You do it too. Don't tell me you don't.
Yeah, we all do.
See, if you played an Elder Scrolls game before Skyrim, there was a whole stat dedicated to jumping. In Morrowind, you could make it so you could jump like a mile up in the fucking air if you fucking maxed that shit out and then took like a potion. Basically fly.
That's what you can do. That's what you can do with like some of the legs in Cyberpunk, though.
Not quite to the effect of Morrowind. Morrowind was
not quite, but still.
Also, because nothing in Morrowind was like instanced except like small buildings. They did a lot with a little for that game. It's still surprisingly good. Daggerfall as well. Daggerfall is like the biggest game ever, but it looks like this 2D mess now.
Yeah.
But it's just like it's like the size of England, all told, because it was procedurally generated to be like the size of England and populate it with dungeons and quests.
I keep hearing that Life of P is gonna get like Game of the Year award.
Dave the Diver. That's Max's Game of the Year award. Dave the Diver. Because I can't say Ninja Turtles because that was last year.
Yeah.
Dave the Diver.
Didn't Dave the Diver come out last year though?
No, it came out this year. I got it when it first came in early access in like February, and then it came out.
Oh, yeah.
It was only in early access for like a short time, which is good right away to see that kind of turnaround, because a lot of games, I mean, DayZ was in early access for like 10 years. So to see a game turn around in a couple months, and it's good. I'm telling you, the story's good. The gameplay loop's good. It's kind of good natured because you're just like a fisherman fighting with fish under the ocean and then cooking them in your restaurant and trying to make money to get upgrades. And all the cutscenes, like there's this cool chef who doesn't say anything, but he like does anime cutscenes of making all the food, and it looks awesome. Game is, the best indie game I played this year, and that makes it the best game I played this year because all the AAA games, in some way or another, disappointed me. But Dave the Diver had me coming back wanting to play more, so that's the game of the year. No, Life of P didn't do that at all. It was a good Dark Soulsian game. My boy liked it because the art style's a little scary, and he likes that shit. But even he got bored with it. I beat it. It's kind of like a hard Dark Soulsy game, admittedly, but it's not.
Yeah.
That's not anything I would really say game of the. I wouldn't even think that would be contender. I would think Spider-Man 2 probably is, gay stuff aside.
Yeah, I mean,
Spider-Man list. I'd say Starfield. Like a lot of the hate coming on Starfield are from people who didn't play it. I put it as a solid meh game. I had some fun with it, but I didn't have enough fun to spend 100 hours beating it. Space Cowboy idea was kind of cool.
See, I'm not even hating on Starfield because I haven't played it. What I will say is I am laughing my ass off at the people who are like, oh, Cyberpunk is so much better than Starfield because it's like a lot less buggy free, and it's like, do you people not remember?
I don't even agree with that.
Well, it's like do you? Well, it's also
I played Cyberpunk 2.0, and I don't even agree with that. I think they're about on par. I played Starfield at launch. Look, those big RPGs, they have hundreds of people working, thousands. They're moving parts and they're buggy, and but you gamers have the higher and higher expectations. See, my indie game thing, I love when a company takes an idea and just laser focuses on the fun gameplay loop and then maybe writes a story around it. And that's what most indie games are. That's what Dave the Diver is. They were like, what if during the day you dive around the ocean with a harpoon gun catching fish, and at night you run a sushi restaurant with the fish you catch? So it's a business sim and like a roguelike hunt the fish game. And you go back and forth between the two, catching special fish, trying to impress critics, and you have like a social media thing that you're trying to like promote. So you take pictures of the good food. It's just a silly little thing that they went all in on, and it's 2D graphics. And I don't give a fuck if Life of P looks nice. Dave the Diver looks nice for pixel art. It's fantastic. And there's a whole little story and it's cute. You uncover the history of like a ancient lost sea people who may or may not be mermaids. I'm not going to spoil anything, but they live under the water and they may or may not still be alive. And it's a whole mystery solving while you're trying to run the restaurant and fish and fight sharks. Because if a shark sees you, you're in a fucking fight. You can run away, and you have oxygen as you're down there. So you can only stay down for so long, and you can only carry so much. And each fish is worth different prices. So you can see how it gets a little addictive. They focus on that gameplay loop. Or I see you can defend Cyberpunk now, but at launch, Cyberpunk was a mess.
Yeah.
right? Dave the Diver wasn't at launch, not even at early access launch. The only thing is it just had the first chapter. So I stopped playing it. I was like, okay, I get the feel of it. I'd already been sold on it. And then I waited for the full thing to come out. And I'm telling you, to me, if you haven't played it and you say, no, that can't possibly be game of the year, you can't really weigh in. I'm telling you, it's one of those things you have to play it. It's maybe not the most like graphically intense or deep simulation-y RPG edgelord story game ever, but it's fucking game of the year.
See, I mean, that is the one thing that kind of annoys me with like these gaming critics is they think that like in order for something to be game of the year, it must be graphically impressive.
Because indie game companies, right, don't have the money to pay IGN to suck their dick. That's what it really, like, to some degree or another, whether it be through advertising. So I'm not saying it's bribery, but having a relationship.
No, but it is.
Yeah, and that's what Gamergate. Yeah, that was what the Gamergaters were trying to say about ethics in gaming journal. I wasn't a part of it, but I get that.
No, I get that
They're
too.
like, you're basically exchanging money for 8 out of 10 for everything, and it's fucking gay, and you're prioritizing people with like a left-wing message. That's why Gamergate is like so relevant, and that's why they keep freaking out about it, because they kind of called it on the nose what they were doing.
Yeah.
I'm not, like I said, I wasn't involved in it, but like a spade's a spade.
No.
And they were saying like there's no ethics in any of this. They're all exchanging money and like sexual favors and things for like good reviews. So even when an indie game gets a fair shake now, people still think about that, right? So if a indie game that's maybe really good gets good press, you still don't find a lot of people playing it, with the rare exception of something like Vampire Survivors, which I was the first review for that game on YouTube. Now everybody knows what it is. My wife even likes that game. It's because it's like a $3 game that you can just sit there and play an infinite game play loop. The guy originally didn't even make the graphics. He bought them in a pack, but he put it all together in an interesting way that has a fun gameplay loop. If you haven't played it, you have these passive weapons and you upgrade by getting experience points really quickly. And you get more and more powerful and ramp up, and there's more and more monsters. And by a couple minutes, there's like 1,000 monsters on screen, and you're killing them all. And after a while, you either die or you beat the level in like so many 10 minutes or whatever. And then you get more powerful for all your guys and do it again. And it might be like NES style graphics, but that gameplay loop, I'll tell you right now how much I've put into Vampire Survivors. And again, I was the first YouTube review of it, and I get no love for it, man. I like discovered that game. Makes me sad. Where is Vampire Survivors in my Steam library? And they've done so much free content for it too, which is the crazy part. Yeah, 62 hours in a little 2D game where you actually don't even attack. The only controls in Vampire Survivors, if you've never played it, is you can walk up, down, and left, right, and you get to pick a level up whenever you pick up enough experience points, and that's it. Everything else is passive, but for some reason it's super addictive. And it's like $3, and you'll probably get more time out of it than you will most of those AAA games, even like Cyberpunk. I've played 62 hours of Vampire Survivors, and I don't think I've even scratched half the surface of it. And they keep putting out new content like every couple of months. Because it's a simple game with a 2D art style and just a fantastic game loop, and it doesn't need more than that. The story is that, like, I don't know, Castlevania type shit. Because they all look like Castlevania. Here, have fun with this fun game. Sometimes you don't need all that story. A game's a game, right? What's the story of Tetris?
There is none.
Why would you need it? It's Tetris.
Yeah.
That's how you know you got something good. And so why is that not formula true today? Of course it is. A lot of games I find the most enjoyment out of are like modern take with like modern hardware on a very specific retro gaming genre. I'm also an early supporter, and I feel kind of let down by, but still stand by to some degree because it's just one guy working on it. But there was an Xbox 360 arcade game that stole my heart called Dead Pixels. It's a zombie game, and you basically walk. You can shoot left or you can shoot right, and there's all these power ups, and it looks like an NES game, kind of like River City Ransom or something. And the music is fantastic, and it's a super fun gameplay loop. And I bought, when he put it into early access, Dead Pixels 2 straight to video, and I have the like demo that he's got finished, but it's just one guy in England working on it himself and having a full-time job, and it's taking forever to come out. But I guarantee you it's an indie game that would steal a lot of people's heart. The music in it alone, it's supposed to be like a Super Nintendo era. The first one was like an NES era. And it's got more RPG type elements and stuff, but it's also just like a horde survival game with bosses and a story this time. And you can make choices and survivors in a camp. So it does have a little bit of a fucking story to it, but it's still made to look 16-bit. But the music is so fucking good. It has no right to be. And that's true of both those games. But I feel like I'm never going to see Dead Pixels 2 fully finished. Right now, it's got this same demo he's had for years where you get up to the first boss, which is awesome. And then it's like, okay, 54 more streets to go. This is the end of the playable experience. And it's been that way for many years. I feel like I got my $10 out of it, though, because I can still go back and play it. Because the character creator's awesome, the art style's awesome, and I'm telling you, it's that synth style that emulates the 80s, almost like vaporwave to a degree, but more authentic to what it sounded like in the 80s and 90s in like movies and shit. That action movie kind of synth sound that you don't get anymore.
Yeah.
It really does that kind of soundtrack like the best I've ever heard. And the gunplay is great, and the leveling is great, and I just wish this one guy would finish it. So that's the kind of heartbreak you get on the indies too, because on paper it's a simple game, it's 2D, but like he hand draws all this pixel art, and he's really, really talented at pixel art. If you go look up Dead Pixel 2, you'll see what I mean. It looks great. Problem is, it's not done. I still played 67 hours of it though, so I got my $10 worth. Also, because it's co-op, and when it's done, it's supposed to have online co-op. One day, when it's done. But then you get Dave the Diver, and the turnaround is like instant, and it's game of the year. So what else? We got gaming. We bored everybody to death with that. What else we got?
You have me sold. Not much else.
Play Dave the Diver.
Play Dave the Diver. The only thing I'm kind of
I got a pit story. There's one. I didn't tell the pit story on the air, did I?
No, and I said earlier, I'm like, yeah, you don't like pit bulls too much, do you?
I don't generally like pit bulls. There are settings where they're fine. I may have fucking gone a bit far and say outlaw them or whatever, but I was kind of just mad. But the wrong setting for them is around other people's kids that don't know you or the dog, right up in their grill, because you don't know if kids are even as scared of dogs or whatever, right? Individually. And so, okay, we're trick-or-treating. My boy's having a grand old time. He went out with his mom and grandmom to some places that were giving out like a lot of candy first, and then we walked around the neighborhood, and we got halfway down the street, and he went up the steps and he knocked, and the lady came to the door with their fucking pit bull right up in my kid's grill. And then like, oh, he's nice. And my son, as anybody would do, jumped back. He loves dogs, but it takes him, and he's even pet pit bulls and stuff. Unfortunately, as far as I'm concerned, because they are more liable than other breeds to fucking snap and bite somebody. and especially in a setting like this. Like, I've known people that I thought take care of big pit bulls well because I'm from the country. Okay, I know that you can do that, but they require an actual lot of exercise as a breed to not snap one day. If you just have them living lazy in an apartment, they actually can potentially be that's when they are potentially a threat, because they're still not completely a domesticated animal. Kind of like the lady that had the chimp for years and years, and then it bit her friend's face off.
Oh yeah.
Like, they're not an actual domestic, like, they were kind of bred out of the domestication part because they were bred to fight for entertainment purposes, which makes it a different, like, set of instinct, you know? And they're hard to just train out when the dogs are so athletic and full of energy. And I'm not saying, like, you even need, like, an extraordinary, it's just, you could, like, walk them a little bit. But it's a couple miles, and probably at least every other day, you got to walk a pit bull. And you probably got to have a rope for it to hang off of by its jaw to work that out and get all that energy out. And still, they might just, like, go do something if they smell a female dog in heat down the street and let you know that they're in charge now because they want to get laid. But anyway, the lady comes in. My son understandably jumps back and then falls off the top step onto his butt, and then the middle of his back on one of the big cement steps, and then he falls off into the trees, basically on the back of his fucking back and neck. And I immediately run over and check on him to see if he's okay. He says he is, and I pick him up, and he's obviously crying and upset because he just fell, and it definitely hurt. But he was okay. And then I wanted to just choke this bitch. Why do you come to the front door on Halloween to a random strange kid with your fucking pit bull in their face?
Yeah.
That's why I don't like pit bulls. It's because of those kind of pit bull owners. Because that's just... And she's just like, oh, he's so nice. Yeah, but my son doesn't know that. And he reacted normally, and it caused an accident that could have been completely avoided if you were a responsible adult. And the crazy part is, one of the houses before that, the guy came to the door and real quick said, hold on, I got to get my dog under control. And he brought him into another room and then came and gave my son a couple candies for waiting so patiently. That dog was a beagle. So the beagle owner responsibly put their beagle in the other room so as not to scare all the fucking little kids off. But the pit bull owner lady, middle-aged fucking soccer mom, has to come right in my son's face with her fucking unknown strange pit bull and say how nice he is. That's the problem with pit bulls. It's pit bull ladies like that.
Yeah. Well,
this is a residential area, and I doubt she runs at 7 miles.
She probably thinks that her pit bull is the exception to the rule.
They all do, don't they? And then they might be for the most of their life, but the risk is there. Because these are animals just meant to be active, and they're also meant to be predators. Genetically. You can train it out to the most part, but you never know what's going to set them off more than other breeds. Usually other breeds, when they bite people, it's usually the Rottweilers or German Shepherds, and the statistic they don't feed you to that because they try to make it sound like it's almost as bad as pit bulls, is that most of them are doing it in the name of either police work or security work.
Yeah, I knew a couple that had to get rid of their Rottweiler because the Rottweiler got jealous once their kid was born.
Yeah, no, Rottweilers can't. I'm not saying Rottweilers can't be mean. I'm saying out of the bites that they give, serious, the majority come in the line of police work along with like shepherds, but that's not true of pit bulls. Because they don't do police work or any of that because they're not suitable for it for obvious reasons. But no, tell me how they're fine when law enforcement doesn't think it's fine, you know? Wouldn't it help to have a big, like if they were loyal to the end and could like a German Shepherd can be, or like a Rottweiler can be, and also that big and mean and vicious, don't you think more law enforcement would use them? It would be a tactical advantage to do so. Because they're huge, and that bite will tear you apart more than a fucking German Shepherd, boy. But they don't, because that bite might turn around and be on the fucking officer that it's been partners with for 20 years, you know? Because that's kind of how pit bulls are, especially in the line of duty. You don't know what's going on in their mind, all the shit they're trying to process. That's human shit, you know?
Yeah.
Just
Well,
a dog.
we
Complete fucking self-defense, you know?
we
gotta train 'em.
anthropomorphize animals a lot.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, they all, in cats too, are like eat, sleep, fuck, self-defense. That's animals, right?
Yeah.
But domesticated animals, the strategy is to how they get that is to like make human do it. Dogs do it a lot of cases by being at least helpful in some way. Cats do it by being cute and also maybe eating rodents. And that's why we have those two. And birds are helpful for like mining and other things.
Yeah.
Sending messages and such. All the domesticated animals have a reason.
Well, we don't send birds anymore.
No, that's why there's so many pigeons in cities. They
Yeah.
send from like messenger, but that's not even like that's true. That's why there's pigeons in cities and they're so like chill with humans because they're domesticated and they think about that. It's like a whole race of pets abandoned forever because we invented the telegraph. That's what pigeons are. When you think about those damn pigeons, remember that. They're like, you took their job and they don't know what to do. So they eat trash and shit everywhere.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, no, it is.
Either that or they're spy drones, is according to the one thing I heard on that one reputable program.
Oh, yeah, the whole birds aren't real thing.
Yeah, clearly. I mean, pigeons can't be real because that story that I just told is so ridiculous that clearly they're just spy drones. They're they're not the abandoned worker pets that have no idea why we've abandoned them, but have genetic memories to hang around us because they don't know how to survive on their own anymore.
Yeah.
And the more you think about that, the more existentially sad it gets.
Yeah.
Imagine the pigeon's plight for a second.
It's so existentially sad.
It's Oscar the Grouch. You know what I mean? Like we made them bums and then complain that they shit everywhere and eat everything. And that we've basically created a situation where if they don't do that, they'll just cease to be. So they hang out near us and eat popcorn off the fucking ground because we abandoned them when we found a newer, flashier toy. Because human beings are fickle.
It's so sad. I think we might want to end the podcast and just like leave the audience with that for this week.
There you go.
Think about the carrier pigeons, folks.
Now known as a modern, people call them trash birds, right? You know what I mean? Like people don't. Who thinks highly of pigeons? But they were once an integral part of the communication in this very country. In that very city you're in was part of the network. And now they just shit everywhere.
Yep.
That's what happens when you take their jobs.
Play Dave the Diver. And think out the carrier pigeons.
Yeah. What other podcast has given that advice? And listen to Meatloaf Bat Out of Hell.
Yes.
I love how you instantly agree with that. Good man.
Great album. Yeah. Alrighty, folks. We'll be back next week. Until then, take care. And don't do anything I wouldn't do. Or would do. Depending on
don't post what he would post about Sky Blue or whatever. Besides, I mean, if you're into goth mummies, you already got like the Rhea Ripley, right?
Oh,
is she not good enough for you guys? You're not into that, or you?
She took a bit far.
A bit far. Well, yeah, she's the leader of the Judgment Day.
Yeah.
What's this blue chick doing again? All right, just showing her panties.
She should have been in like the modeling industry, but then the modeling industry went woke and pretty girls aren't allowed.
Yeah, and so she
Anymore.
becomes a pigeon. And there's where you end it. Sky Blue the pigeon. Think about it.
All right, folks. That is a good way to end. See ya.
Thanks for listening to The Whitfield Report on the NGC Network. Please visit Sam's website at www.thesamwhitfield.com and support Sam on Patreon at patreon.com/Whitfield Report. Until next time, God bless, God save this great nation, and God, freedom, legacy, in that order.